welcome to the 2023 One-Shot Patreon Drive. This is the first time and only time that we've started this stream. There are no previous errors. Anything that you heard was a gross exaggeration, an attack on my character, and I won't have it. We are here because we're currently raising funds for all of the wonderful productions that we do here on the One Shot Network through this week, next week, and the first couple days the week after that. We're doing streams with people who are in and friends of the network, and I have the great pleasure and privilege of being joined tonight by the acclaimed game designer, Jeeyon Shim.
Thank you so much for such a warm intro. I love gaming with you so much, and I'm so excited to be here.
Jeeyon, I am so excited to have you. Just a quick note to our audience, for technical reasons, we cannot have Jeeyon on camera. So instead, Jeeyon has just sent over a bunch of photos that are illustrative of Jeeyon's situation.
Yes, this is not a tonal match for the game, but it is a window into my life. So you're welcome if that's something you wanted. You got it.
I can't imagine people not wanting that.
The bite is my fave. Yes, by the way, the editor for the Snow Queen is in chat tonight. So everyone hand it over to Victor, who is a fucking hero, truly. Oh wait, can I swear on this stream? Should I not swear?
You can. I'm
Oh
assuming.
my fucking god!
I
I
assumed
was
that the
so
Snow Queen
scared for
had
a minute.
some more mature themes.
I mean, it's extremely sad, so maybe that's part of it. But yeah, Victor is an absolute powerhouse of an editor, and he is in chat, and he said the bite is his fave. I only can assume it's one of the two photos of Onion actively biting me.
Of course.
Which is not minority percentage of my life anymore. He bites me a lot. But yeah, I am Jeeyon Shim. I am a game designer. I've been working independently as the owner of Jeeyon Shim Games since late 2021, early 2022. You might have heard of me from the game I co-designed with my good friend Jeeyon Core, Field Guide to Memory, which is very near and dear to my heart and available on my itch.io, jeeyonshim.itch.io or it.itch.io. However, I also have funded this game, The Snow Queen, and The Longest Rest, both of which are currently in development. And I am really, really excited to play this game with James because James and I both love romance, tragedy, high stakes storytelling, and fantasy fairy tale elements. And it's just gonna be such a good time. Also, fun fact, that drawing of Onion looking really yoked and lifting weights is by my very good friend Molly, who you might know from Strong Female Protagonist, which was a webcomic back in the day. Yeah. She also works on The Owl House and has done all kinds of graphic novel work and is just amazing. Has an incredible essay on the queer subtext that rapidly becomes text in Lord of the Rings.
And an incredible, like, heartbreaking, beautiful fan fiction about the same thing.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah, Field Guide to Memory, in fact, uses really cool mechanics. I'm addressing something Victor said in the chat, including bird watching and hiking and mapping your own trail, plant identification, that kind of thing. The Snow Queen is really interesting because it's actually one of the first games that I designed explicitly without mechanics that involve like outdoor education and outdoor skills, which is where my bread and butter and like comfort zone is. A lot of what people would consider more traditional tabletop role-playing design is for me really novel and weird. So this was kind of my first foray into it, and using chess as the driving mechanic for this game has been so fun and quite a writing challenge, let me tell you. So I'm really excited to see how it plays live.
I am too. I'm skeptical about our ability to birdwatch. So I can't wait to see how the mechanics of this game unfold. Although I hear chess is involved, and I won't lie to you, Jeeyon, that does intimidate me.
You know, I am a terrible chess player. I know how to play chess in that I know how the pieces move, and I know when a piece can go down, and I know that like I know how check and checkmate work. And beyond that, like I for the life of me, I can learn about gambits all day long and I can never execute them well. So in many ways, this is a game for people like me who are bad at chess. And in fact, something I've heard back as playtest feedback from friends of mine who are really good chess players is that they have to let go of what they know about chess and particularly strategy because it kind of gets in the way of playing. Like they keep wanting to do various long form gambits and it just backfires on them because your one goal really in the mechanics of how the chess is worked into it is to take as many pieces as you can, which is
Hmm.
not how most strategy works.
Sure.
And I was really fascinated by that as a playtest feedback piece, and I keep wrestling with how to incorporate it into it.
I love that. I love anything that takes people who are very good at chess out of their comfort zone. My big gripe about chess is I I'm not terrible at games and strategy games. I'm not great at them either by any stretch of the imagination. And when chess is a game that is purely about reacting to an individual moment, I can have fun with it. But as soon as it becomes a game that is, oh, you have to memorize all of these patterns and configurations that normally pop up in chess, which, to be fair to chess, is what chess actually is, I check out and I'm like, well, that's never going to be me, dog. So I'm always going to be super terrible at chess and I will fall for that like 3 move, like loss condition almost every
Mm-hmm.
time. Almost every
You heard
time.
it here first. James D'Amato loves kneecapping chess masters. If you are
I
a chess master,
do. Yeah. If you're out there really good at chess, I am coming for you. For
that's
sure.
right. That's right.
You've had it too good for
Um,
too long.
yes, chess masters notoriously beloved by all of society. It's
Hmm.
true. Oh man. So, walk me through this, James. How does this stream work? How would you like to ease us into the game?
The stream, basically, I actually think, in order to do this stream, Jeeyon, you said there is a shared chess room that we need to be in together. And I do want to make
Yes.
sure that the audience has the ability to see that. So if you want to send me the link
Yeah.
to that, I will incorporate it so it can be one of the
Absolutely. It's in
rooms.
our Zoom chat, but if you'd like
Oh,
me to send it again, I
no,
can.
if it's in the Zoom chat, that's perfect. I will. Okay.
Oh,
Um,
Onion. No, Onion, please, not now. I love you. No.
And Gian, am I in the right room? You saw that I changed my name there?
Yes, and I can see your cursor moving. You should be able
Oh,
to see my cursor moving.
excellent, excellent. So what
Yeah,
I'm going
I
to
can see your
do
name too.
is now people in the chat will know that I should have set this up beforehand, but we both sort of ran into our own individual difficulties. So it's going to be a little bit more casual. I'm developing the OBS configuration as we go, and everyone's being entertained. Everybody's looking at these lovely pictures of onion. It's fine,
This
and I can
is
relax.
why I can never be a full-time streamer because just listening to James walk through this is like an actual stress dream of mine come true. So just everyone hand it to James and anyone else who streams for even a portion of their livelihood. I do not know how you do it. You are heroes to me.
Yeah, I if I depended more on streaming, there was when streaming was a bit younger, I was very much like, oh, streaming is going to be the future of this whole
You weren't
actual play
wrong.
thing, and I gotta jump on that, and we made an effort, but the way it works is just not suited to my sensitive temperaments. You have to work quite a bit, and I Daddy can tell you I simply have an artist's hands.
James D'Amato is a hothouse orchid. He requires very specific conditions to thrive, and streaming is not one of them.
Yeah, though I will do the occasional stream. I do enjoy having a visual component to things. But
Yeah. I'm looking forward to figuring out how to get video going on my laptop again. Yeah, the technical difficulty that James alluded to earlier is that my laptop was made in 2012 and the webcam just straight up stopped working. It was about 2021. So, beautiful slideshow.
I think the slideshow is great, and I'm certain that people love it.
I
Okay,
know.
so we have the room set up. So when chess becomes a factor in what we're doing, we're going to be able to enjoy it, all of us together. But with that, Jeeyon, if there's any introductory explanation that you would like to give about the game, I feel like we're ready to start jumping in.
Yeah, we'll cover this when we brief safety and all, but I think it is worth mentioning that this is a game that deals with themes of loss and grief pretty directly. If that's something that you're sensitive to, just be aware that, it's going to be a lot of coverage of that. There also are themes of romance and sometimes sex that come up, not graphically, but again, if that's something that you're not super into, just be advised. Beyond that, I think we could just jump right into reading the introduction as it is.
I'm game. Let's go for it.
Yeah, would you like me to read it?
Jeeyon, yes, please.
Okay. So everyone settle in like you are about to be read your favorite fairy tale. And in fact, I feel like all of us had had this experience as adults the first time we read a fairy tale and realized that fairy tales can be sad and profound and resonate with us in a way that we might not have been used to if we didn't grow up hearing those tales. That's the kind of fairy tale that we are settling in for by our proverbial fires as once upon a time, winter grasped every land in every world, and the only places we found any warmth was in each other's arms. There is a mirror between our world and others. It stands tall and proud. It guards us from the follies of realms beyond our own. It reflects our own strength back upon us. It reflects back our shame. It shows us all the secrets and sorrows we keep tucked within ourselves, the ones we keep closest right under our skin. And sometimes the mirror cracks. Game premise: The Snow Queen is a game for two players. Set in a fantasy world loosely based on Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale, it takes place in a dreamscape where the mirror between worlds cracks just enough to peer through to the other side. Two women circle each other amidst visions of their own demise. The village girl, in her tightly knit community of hardworking neighbors, family, friends, and comrades, must keep the wolves of eternal winter at bay. Meanwhile, the Snow Queen, sworn to her duty as oh my god, onion. Sworn to her duty as the ruler and protector of the heart of winter, must drive back the fires of annihilation that threaten her realm. Neither party knows who will prevail, nor whether these visions foretell dream, prophecy, or something else entirely until the end of the game. And that's the intro as written. I hope that
Ooh.
wasn't too disruptive. He knocked my mic over.
Hey, no, I think a lot of people in the chat, I'm sure I speak for them when I say they're partially here for to see how Onion disrupts what we do.
God, I hope that doesn't become a permanent part of my brand. I really like a peaceful life. You wouldn't know it from his presence in it, but I do. So Saren, Onion's an agent of the Snow Queen. He is extremely white, maybe that has something to do with it.
Ooh.
All right. So themes, content notes, and safety. Before beginning the game, review this whole section together and address any questions that come up. James, by the way, the document link is also in the Zoom chat if you would like to follow along with it.
Oh yeah, that might be
Yeah.
helpful.
So the Snow Queen focuses on themes of loss, community, worldly beauty, and catastrophe. Throughout play, you will likely touch on scenes involving war, famine, plague, and death. The classics. Certain parts of the game describe mourning, harm to animals and children, and situations that resemble climate disaster. a theme that I did not know was going to come up, but sure did. While the characters are at odds as a keystone part of the game's narrative, it is important to note that this is a game that hinges on cooperation and good faith between players. Remember the first and most important safety principle: the player is always more important than the game. Maintain open lines of communication with each other, assume good faith, and if anyone needs to pause or stop, do so immediately. Work together to redo a scene or walk back a move as needed. Remember that you are weaving your two stories together. Tapestries need both their warp and weft to stay whole. If you feel the need for a more structured signal to pause the game and negotiate something that happens in play, make or use an X card. So we are playing on audio only. That means that if we need like an emergency break, essentially, one of us will just say the word X 3 times, like X, 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 and that'll be a good signal for us to just stop what we're doing and check in with each other.
Sure thing.
Uh, you and I have high trust as players and we know each other pretty well, so I don't think it'll come to that, but it's always good to have a safety break like that in mind. Um, Additionally, I recommend using the open door agreement. Open door states that any player for any reason can get up and leave the game, whether temporarily, as with a bio break, or permanently, as with unforeseen scheduling conflicts. In other words, the door is always open. And you may know of other safety tools or guidelines that you like to incorporate into your game experiences. For this, I'd love to shout out the TTRPG's Safety Toolkit, which was compiled and curated by Kiana Shaw, who is also a game editor of mine and a wonderful friend, and Lauren Bryant Monk. It is a wonderful resource. If you have never heard of it or used it before, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It is one of the best resources out there for anyone who's interested in designing or playing tabletop games, and particularly if you are performing them.
Yeah, I
All
have
right.
referenced that document many, many times in writing my
So many
books.
times.
So it is so helpful.
It is so helpful. Yeah, it's funny because like I know that toolkit, there have been not misunderstandings exactly, but I think like the work that they do is the work of archivists. It is the work of like indexers. And it is so important to have people who are good at indexing information out there, because one of the things about tabletop is that information is so scattered across like the entire fucking internet and like time periods in the internet. And to have someone go in and just bring them all together in one place, it is such an invaluable resource. I'm going to link to it in the chat really quickly if it's okay, to take the time to do that, because I just think it's worth it. And it's won awards for this exact reason, and it really, really deserves them. Safety toolkit. Okay. Is this it? Yes. All right. This is a PDF of the safety toolkit that I just mentioned. It is free for everyone to reference. Highly recommend. It's only 4 pages. Invaluable. Okay, thanks for entertaining that digression. Let's see. Oh, we are going into the materials and preparing to play section. So go and gather your spear and banner, gather your herbs and nets, gather your crown, your cloak, your staff, your hatchet, bank the fires and all your hearths before your feet find the open road. The Snow Queen requires the following to play: a chessboard with complete set of pieces. For remote play, I recommend using playingcards.io/game/chess for your shared chessboard. It is a really nice website for exactly this game. 2 players in person or long distance, about 4 to 6 hours. We might be able to do it in shorter. I know that you've got time constraints and I don't want to keep you too long. And optionally, a 6-sided die, because there are pick lists throughout the game that if you would like to play it in a way where you like truly randomize every choice, you totally can. However, I think for you and I and our storytelling style, we probably won't need that. What do you think, James?
I've got a die within reach in case I need it, but we'll probably be able to get away with picking things.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a section that I have not written the prose of yet, but first steps first. You and I are going to choose who among us is playing the village girl and Snow Queen respectively, and whether our respective relationships to Kai, who we will introduce shortly, is platonic or romantic.
Okay. Well, Jeeyon, I'll ask you, what I imagine, because you've playtested this quite a bit, you have
Mm-hmm.
been around every role. Is there one that you prefer?
For tonight, if you don't have a strong preference, I would love to play the Village Girl because I have played the Snow Queen more often than not.
I suspected that was
Um,
the case.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And if you would like to get a feeling for the general flavor of both of these characters, and the document outline on the left, you can see the Snow Queen's playbook and the Village Girl's playbook, and there's a short introduction if you want to just read it to yourself, if that helps influence your choice. Because if you have a preference, I'd love to go with yours.
Nah, I can. I'll be the Snow Queen. I'm totally cool with
Oh
that.
yeah. Okay. So in that case, you tell me, is your relationship with Kai a platonic one where you have named him as a future heir to the realm or a courtier of some kind? Or is he your consort? Is he a lover that your court is fully aware of?
Gosh. Oh, already that's a difficult question because, like, so on Skyjacks, I get to play a lot with the overbearing mother trope because, like, in that
Hmm.
fashion, the forest queen from Hazards of Love is very much a possessive mother. Um, so part of me wants to investigate the love triangle dynamic here, of
Yeah, yeah,
going like,
yeah.
let's make Kai the queen's consort.
Absolutely. In which case I think it makes sense for Kai to also be the betrothed of the village girl to make
Yeah.
it a true love triangle.
Well, a love wedge.
A love wedge. God, so many shapes could apply to that configuration. It's true.
It's only a triangle if there's queerness involved. That's otherwise
Fair
it's a
and
wedge.
oh, Saren said love chevron. Exactly. That's the very Pinterest trend hashtag term for it. Absolutely.
Hmm.
All right. In that case, let's move on. He smiled the most exquisite smile, veiled by memory, tinged by dreams. Virginia Woolf to the lighthouse. We are moving into creating Kai. For reference for anyone who has not read Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale, there is a boy at the center of the story that everything revolves around, and his name is, it's spelled Kay as in K, but I've always heard it pronounced Kai.
Hmm. Huh.
Um, And in this game, the very first character creation you do, you don't make yourselves, you don't talk about your communities, you talk about him.
Love
So,
that.
yeah, together create the boy who crossed through the mirror between worlds, who both your characters love. You and I are each going to choose one term in
Hmm.
each of these sections. There doesn't have to be a specific alternating order, but basically we each get one draw. So look, choose two of the following words to describe Kai's looks. Handsome, ailing, vulpine, lean, elegant, athletic, disheveled, bright-eyed, roguish, kempt, sculpted, soft, or boyish.
I love Vulpine.
Yeah, yeah, like a fox.
Hmm.
When I always think of vulpine people or hear or read a character described as vulpine, there's always like a very specific like bones structure that I imagine.
Yes.
Um,
It's
like
like looking a little severe and almost like pointed and clever. Um,
yeah, like you can see their mind working in their face.
Also, the reason that I love it as a descriptor, generally speaking, is how much cultural baggage, no matter what culture you're talking about, gets attached to foxes as symbols.
Yeah.
Um,
That's so interesting you say that because I was talking about this with my sister the other day. When I think of the word vulpine, one of the things I think of is my cousin, who my aunt would always say, quit being so foxish. Stop being so fox. Like foxes are like like a shorthand for like cunning.
Yeah,
And
okay.
basically it was my aunt scolding her to be like, quit fucking around. Um,
This is actually truly fascinating to me because I know in like definitely European traditions and whatnot there is this like foxes are clever and tricky and a little magical. I
mhm.
feel like growing up in North America around foxes, especially in the areas I grew up, is they're loud creatures that fuck in the trash. So there's a little bit of that to me, but I read Golden Sky Stories a couple years ago, and apparently in
Ooh,
Japan, foxes are supposed to be regal creatures. Like they still
yeah.
have a magical air about them, but like there is a lot more dignity in them than afforded
Yes.
in other
Yeah.
traditions. So I love like getting a bit of all three of those. Like I like the idea that in this case, and I know we've spent so long talking about the one descriptor that we picked so far,
No, no, no. I mean,
but
this is us though. It's fairy tales. We love them. It's hard not to get digressed.
in this case, it means this guy is like, very clever and intelligent looking and also kind of canny and cunning. And I think has a fayish, regal air about him, but also a wildness. This
Yeah,
is someone who gets into the trash. It is somebody who screams loud at night. Um, and that all blends together.
absolutely. In that case, I think he's also a little boyish.
Oh,
I think
ooh.
there's like a youthful quality to him. Like no matter how old he is, he's always going to seem like someone who is very playful. Like even when he is in his 60s, he's going to have like fun uncle energy. Like he will
Yes,
age
yes.
into that, but right now in his youth, like it seems there is a fey quality to him like he might never age, and that I think is underscored by that vulpine quality.
Yeah. Yeah, that is great.
Yeah. In that case, let's move into his manner. Choose two of the following words to describe Kai's general manner: mischievous, spirited, romantic, lighthearted, persuasive, charming, personable, affectionate, alluring, rakish, and formal. Any of those jump out at you?
Yeah, a lot of them do. I think I am caught between lighthearted and charming, and
Ooh,
I think I want to go with lighthearted.
yeah. I like that because it's so specific. It's
It
not always a good thing, right? Like sometimes you need someone who is able to be serious, but
Yeah, I like with a situation where you end up in a love wedge. I there's something that compels me about like the central figure of that not being a jerk. Like I feel like charming would almost bring like, oh, he's charmed the heart of the Snow Queen, he's charmed the heart of the
sure.
village girl. Lighthearted feels like, oh, this is just a person who loves easily and flits about, and like even if it's causing problems around him, that's just sort of his way.
Absolutely. Charm has a certain connotation of artifice to it that lighthearted
Mm,
doesn't.
yeah.
And in that spirit, I think I'm going to choose affectionate.
Oh, great. Yes.
I think he's really open with his affection. Choose another two words to describe Kai from the following: resentful, proud, careless, inconsiderate, distant, mercurial, presumptuous, hot-headed, passive, irresolute, oblivious.
I mean, I gotta go with Mercurial.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I think I'm also going to say I'm torn between resentful and proud.
I
I'm gonna say resent. Oh, what
oh
were you
no, go
gonna say?
ahead.
No, no,
No,
no,
no,
no.
no,
You
no,
go
no,
ahead.
no.
No, you go ahead. You.
I see now I don't want to say it because it was the other way. I was like, oh, I like proud. And the reason I say that
Oh.
is
Uh-huh.
vulpine to me, like some animals, even if they are loud creatures who eat trash and scream, they
Yeah,
have a dignity about them.
they do. I think we can bring that dignity to Kai. I'm still gonna choose resentful because
Great.
of the relationship dynamics that I think could come out of that.
Hmm.
Because we are explicitly choosing like a love wedge kind of deal.
Perfect.
All right. Moving into histories. Take turns to answer each of the following questions as your character to further flesh out your respective relationships with Kai and what you've heard of each other through him. Answer in single words wherever you can and one or two sentences at most. You can decide if your answers to a question are the same. What food does Kai like to eat together with you?
Trying to decide what foods exist in my realm, what feels wintry and has the dignity of the Snow Queen.
Bannock bread.
Chocolate.
Ooh. What amusing diversion does Kai like to do together with you?
Jump in the snow. I'm sure I'm maybe a little too hung up on foxes at this point, but I'm sure y'all have seen videos of foxes in the winter hunting where they'll leap up into the air and put their front paws forward so that they can burst through snowfall to get at whatever they're getting at. It's adorable, and it
It's
does look
very
like they're
good.
playing.
I added in the doc hunting because they do that explicitly to hunt, which I think
Hmm.
is a fun twist to it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
For the village girl, dancing.
Mm.
How does Kai look at you in the way he tells you he looks at no one else? Hmm. Gently.
It was resentful was his thing. Okay. With gratitude. So we'll
Ooh,
just,
gratefully.
yeah, gratefully. There we go.
What is something that embarrasses Kai? His temper.
His wit.
What has Kai told you is his worst fear? Old age.
Hmm. I'm going to say also old age.
What has Kai told you is his greatest hope? Seeking his fortune.
When Kai was with me, he said there was nothing more he could hope for.
How does Kai describe the world on the other side of the mirror to you? Like a dream.
Like a wind, brisk and whipping.
How does Kai describe the woman on the other side of the mirror to you? A passing fancy.
A tragic pity.
How does Kai describe his relationship with her to you? A fantasy come true.
Hmm. Passionate, warm and bright like blood.
Now, if you would like, you may ask your counterpart for elaboration on up to 3 questions.
Who did he know first?
Uh, I think almost certainly me. We grew up in the village together. I think one of the reasons why he describes me, because I'm going to assume that the question you're asking for elaboration on is how does Kai describe the woman on the other side of the mirror to you. The reason I think that he described me as a tragic pity to you is because he knows the circumstances that I've grown up in, and he knows every wrinkle and crack in my life.
Yeah,
And you can't describe someone that way unless you know that. And the reason he knows that is because we grew up hand in hand.
that makes sense. Can can Kai only pass through the mirror during winter?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in seeking his fortune, does Kai does he have a job? Does he have an expected purpose in your village?
Yes, I think that everyone in my village has a role. Those roles can shift, but generally speaking, we take to a particular vocation. I think that Kai is a carpenter. I think one of the
Okay.
ways in which we became close is because my father is also a carpenter and Kai was apprenticed to him.
All right.
Do you have a third question you'd like elaboration on?
I thought can he only pass through the mirror during winter
Oh,
was the
was one of
question.
them? Oh, okay, got it.
But if
Okay,
that's
so
just part of the rules of the game, I can
no, no,
okay.
no. I didn't register that as a second question, but you're right. So in that case, um, tell me about why Kai looks at you gratefully.
I think it is with certain partners that you love, you can't believe they exist. Um, that it's even possible for them to be there. Uh, so when he says that he looks at me gratefully, like part of it, I was considering his flaws. I think there is also an instinct in talking to people that we love. They add so much to our lives that we feel like we are better and more complete because we are connected to them. And so when we make professions about how we feel or what we do around them, part of it feels like banishing the parts of ourselves that we see as flawed or distasteful. And I think, Kai uh, definitely described your life as quite difficult. But I feel like you don't have the flaws of being resentful unless you also grew up with some difficulty. I think he not only feels the things that he has lacked in most of his life, but he also feels the aimless anger that he carries about those. And yet, because he managed to pass through the mirror and into a dream world and found me there, there is gratitude, a gratitude that he feels for the life that he has had that has led him there. And so I feel like he's that laying down the resentfulness when he looks at me and finds gratitude in a rare moment.
Yeah. And actually, I only have one other question I want to ask for elaboration on, which
Mm-hmm.
is why does Kai describe his relationship with me as passionate, warm, and bright like blood?
I think I think it is because in my realm, the only warmth that I have felt comes from a fire. Um, and and the one that is novel or new is Kai's touch. So in trying to explain to me what it is like to have affection for a mortal woman, he can only explain that the passion is like a beating heart. It flows and spills in a way that is different than the connection that the two of us share. And the only mark I have for it is blood because of the one time that he bled when he was in my realm. And the red of that was so bright against the fallen snow.
Damn. Hell yeah. Yes. That is extremely satisfying.
I'm digging it.
Um, yeah. All right. Um, let's move on to tokens. So, for you, the Snow Queen, one day Kai brings you a token of his love for you that you realize must not only have come from the other side of the mirror, but from the village girl's own room. What is it? Choose one from the list and describe it in a little more detail. Then answer the three questions that come at the end. A tinderbox made from cold iron still charred from her hearth, gloves made from doeskin leather still warm from holding her hands, or a handkerchief made from crisp white linen still stained with her tears.
I think it's the gloves. And in my realm, most things that are within my court, whether it is through my own whim and dictation, or whether it is through the simple nature of being the Snow Queen, everything is sharp and intricate and harsh. It is crystals and patterns. It is also soft, but because it is soft mainly because it is layered edges. That is the only softness that I've ever known. And I think there are times when Kai looks at me when I say something alien with a look that I can tell is pity. And I don't know, I truly don't know what to make of this when it happens, because I, of course, look at Kai and think on all of the creatures in the place that he is from with pity of my own. There is so much majesty that is not available to you. Um, and he tried to express what softness meant where he is from. And I couldn't grasp it. And he had picked these gloves as an example. The fact that they were made out of soft skin. I asked him, soft like your skin? And he said, no, no. The gloves are worn. They're used for working, for moving. My skin is youthful skin. This is dead, but it carries the warmth of a living thing. And eventually, the conversation took so many turns and caught so many edges that we had to turn away because there was no progress to be made. But the next time he visited, he brought the gloves with him. And he said that you were just wearing them. And I held them in my hand, and I felt what doe skin leather means. There are many creatures that stalk the winter woods, but there are no does. Not truly. Holding
Yeah.
them, I could feel that there was softness outside of layered majesty. And more important than that, they still carried your warmth. And in a way, yours is the second warmth that I have ever touched outside of the blush of fire.
Yes, absolutely. So, of this token, what does it tell you about the village girl's heart?
That it moves in a way that is similar to Kai's. Also, that it is labored with burdens. Again, not too dissimilar to Kai.
What does it make you wish you could ask her?
I hope it's not cheating to say everything. Kai is the first being who has been able to talk in the way that humans talk that has crossed through the mirror. There have of course been animals and other entities, but Kai is the only human, and that is part of why I became so infatuated with him. There is something amazing about discovering humanity, and all of these feelings like poured out from me, feelings that I didn't know I had, that I didn't know were possible, that I didn't know if Kai was simply drawing out from being who he was, or if it's just that that's what all humans are like. So I want to ask everything because I want to know if all of you are like my Kai.
I love that you said your Kai. That was a very good touch. Why and how do you work it into your daily regimen?
I begin each day by approaching the gloves, like before I take my throne. I approach the gloves and I hold them just as I did when I first touched them. And I try to summon the memory of the warmth that was buried within them as I do it. And how do I keep it hidden?
Oh, it's why and how do you work it into your daily
Oh, why do I?
regimen?
I was reading the wrong ones. Okay, yeah. Why and how do I work it into my daily regimen? And I try to do that. I I only do it on days when Kai is not present.
Oh, interesting.
And the thing that I tell myself is that I do it on days that Kai is not present because he carries that warmth. And if I need it on those days, I will I will simply find it in him. But when he is gone and the only warmth that exists is memory, I feel like the gloves held the memory of warmth once, and I might be able to coax it out.
Oh, God. Wonderful. Heartbreaking already. So for the village girl, one day Kai brings you a token of his love for you that you realize must come not only from the other side of the mirror, but is an artifact of the Winter Realm itself. What is it? Choose one from the list and describe it in a little more detail. A comb carved from ice that never melts, that turns into a stream when thrown on the ground. A needle made from sullen lead that turns into a sword when it draws blood. Or a hood sewn from pelts that changes you into any one of the animals who died for it. Hmm.
Damn, these rip.
Yeah, when I was a kid and I read fairy tales, it was always this kind of thing. The items, man, the items got my attention. Um, I love a good artifact. Oh, I'm torn between the hood is extremely popular. When I have done this as like a kind of choose your own adventure play by poll on social
Mm-hmm.
media, the hood wins by a wide margin every time, which means I kind of want to go for the comb or the needle. And I'm trying to think about the village girl's life and which one would be less welcome in it.
Less welcome. I mean, if you're looking for
Hmm.
less welcome, it's hard to imagine anything less welcome than the needle, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's still some practical use for that comb. Like,
Yeah.
every way that you look at it, it's mundane use. Like, hey, great to have a comb. Uh, and
Yeah.
being able to just get a stream? Are you kidding?
But I think I'm gonna go for it because I think okay, this is why I'm choosing the comb. When he gave it to me, his hands looked as rosy and healthy and calloused as they always did.
Mm-hmm.
Working with the materials that he does, it's funny because the rest of him is so boyish and youthful and kind of soft, but like his hands are very rough with his trade, which means maybe that's why he didn't feel the cold. But when I held it, it hurt. It hurt to hold that comb. And yet I
Oh.
couldn't let it go because he wanted me to like his gift. He wanted to see the appreciation for it on my face. And so I had to hold it and smile, and my hands ached down to the bone as I twisted my hair up and let him put it in. And it's so cold that I can feel it even in my hair. And that was the day when he talked about how meeting you was like meeting a dream, how you were like a fantasy come true. And the moment that I was finally alone in a fit of pique, I tore the comb out of my hair and I threw it on the ground and fell knee deep into a fresh snowmelt stream in a
Oh,
place where there shouldn't be one, in the middle of the town square.
yeah. And so not only are you wet and uncomfortable, it's like a bracing chill.
And I didn't know how to get it back. I remember frantically searching for it and picking up a random branch that had been tangled in the water, and it turned back into a comb in my hands. And the water disappeared, and I was sodden from the knee down. And I knew that what I had was more precious than anything in our village, more precious than the village itself put together, maybe more precious than anything in the king's treasure hold. This is a lifeline, a stream that you can command and summon. This puts me in danger.
It puts your whole village in danger. Wars could be fought over something like that.
I keep that comb on my dresser in a drawer that I never open anymore, unless Kai takes me dancing, in which case he wants to see me wear it.
Is that something that he has made explicitly clear to you, or is that something implicit that you have adopted?
He rarely says things directly. It has been a lot of hints, so
Hmm.
he doesn't have to, I know. What does this comb tell me about the Snow Queen's power? That it's infinite, maybe? That she commands the elements and can beckon and summon them at her call? That they are like servants that she can hold in the palm of her hand? It scares me and it fascinates me. And what does it make me wish I could ask her? I think it makes me want to ask her what it is like to know your own power. That's not something that I've ever known. I can't even work the trade that I was apprenticed to anymore. But she can do anything. She's the queen of the winter realm. She's winter itself. What is that like? What does it feel like? And why and how do I keep it hidden but close to me in my daily life? I think I've sort of answered that with the details of the first one.
Yeah.
It's pretty self-evident. If the king found out, it it would be it just won't happen. Our village is not famous for anything in particular. It shouldn't happen. So, moving on to the playbooks. It is only at this stage that we create ourselves, our characters who will be playing. Um, which was a really fascinating design choice and one that I think is pretty strong. So, alternate answering your playbook prompts with your co-player so that the two of you create the Snow Queen and the Village Girl side by side.
Oh, I love that.
Be- Begin with your name, then appearance, then raiments of clothing, and so on. Note, whichever parts of this section are in first person are meant to be read or summarized aloud, and the parts in second person are meant as instructions to you as a player.
All right.
So, would you like to start?
Of course. I am the queen and the heart of winter. I was crowned the Queen of Winter long ago, that my memory does not span back to my own coronation. My rule is not as a sovereign, but a steward. I guard the heart of winter and ensure that all within my realm thrive. And pick one of the names in the list below. Let's see. keep trying on these names in my head, and I'm just like, is it too severe? And there should be some severity in there. I'm gonna go with Nivea.
Yeah.
I am Nivea, the queen of my realm, steward of the heart of winter. Appearance.
I I will choose my name and then we'll move into appearance.
Oh, okay, I see.
Um, if you look at the document outline, you can kind of see how each section is broken up. And that's how we alternate. I'll try to figure out some kind of formatting in the book itself to make that more clear. In the book, these two sections are going to be side by side in like two columns, so it's like a little more obvious what the call and response is.
Yeah, and I don't
But in a
have
Google
access
Doc.
to the outline because everything is in half windows for me, so I can balance all of my
Oh, I see. Okay, my bad.
various guts.
It's all right. So I am a young woman of my village. I was born in the house I live in, like my mother before me and her mother before her. I have a large, loving family, and we labor together to protect our home and reap the bounty of the land. Pick one of the names from the list below or roll a six-sided die to choose it. I think my name is Catalin.
Hmm.
I, Catalin, am a girl who will spend my whole life in the village, as my mother did before me and her mother before her. Now let's move into appearance.
When you catch sight of your own reflection in the myriad mirror-like surfaces of winter, what do you see? Choose one of the following two options. And my options are a steward of the winter realm who fully embodies the splendor and weight of her responsibilities as queen. And the other is a queen who moves through her world with careful grace of a penitent who knows that her obligations to the realm are an atonement for her past. Oh gosh, it's gotta be number two. It's gotta be.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Absolutely.
That explains everything.
The village girl's appearance. When you catch sight of your own reflection in the myriad windows in the village, what do you see? A young woman who has outgrown her childhood cloak and stockings, impatient to move into adulthood with all its mysteries of intimacy and authority, or a young woman whose hair still holds the kinks from her childhood braids, as though making manifest her desire to remain in the peace of youth as long as she can. I think I'm a young woman who has outgrown her childhood cloak and stockings, impatient to move into adulthood with all its mysteries of intimacy and authority. I think, if nothing else, knowing that I will be taken seriously as an elder is one of the few guarantees I feel is afforded to me, although
Oh,
it feels very far away.
so that detailing is making me think that these characters are younger than I originally envisioned.
How did you originally envision them?
I was like, okay, these people are like in their 20s,
Yeah,
like,
could be true.
yeah, I think a cultural lens that I'll add to this. When I read Dogs in the Vineyard, one of the things that they pointed out about the idea of stewardship within those communities is that people aren't fully adults until they become married. And until that point,
Mm,
even if you are a fully grown adult, you are treated kind of like a child.
huh. Fascinating.
And I feel like it would add a little bit to the angst and make me a little bit more comfortable with the Snow Queen's relationship with Kai if I knew that, like, well, these are people who are, essentially full adult people, and not old adolescents.
Yeah.
And they're not treated with the respect of an adult because they don't hold that place in society for whatever reason. And if it's marriage, that's a fun wrinkle.
I haven't played Dogs and Vineyard. It's been on my list for a while, but it's not in print anymore. And that's such a cool little detail that I didn't know. I love that. Yeah, I imagine the village girl being about 20, like 20 or 21, like an adult, but very much a young adult. And
Sure.
like, you know, on that threshold where in no way are you still a child, and yet you do not have that much life experience yet. You don't know the world very well yet. Like you are on the cusp of learning these things.
Hmm.
And some people want to rush through that. And I think that she's one of them. Like if she could skip ahead to being 40, she would, but she can't. Um, you just can't. Sorry, Catalin.
I like 40 is such a specific
I know.
place to want to be,
Yeah.
too.
um, what is the Snow Queen's bearing like?
All right, let's cut over to bearing. Um, Choose three of the following descriptors. I'm going to go with serene.
Ooh, yeah. I love Serene as a contrast to the kind of queen you are in appearance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things is I don't think she remembers what she did. The only thing that she's, I guess, even maybe made to remember is that she did something. And I'm
Yeah.
going to go with radiant. And I think it feels especially dangerous if my final
Mm.
choice is honorable. Which word of the three feels like the most real and true to who you are? Oh. This is a really complicated question. And I'm going to say, as a player, I don't think any of them are the real to who the queen is. But they are all real to what the queen is. I think I think a long time ago the difference between who and what got lost, buried. And maybe it exists somewhere underneath the snow. But right now, looking out, all that you see are rolling fields of white.
Oh.
And which of them feels like a mirage? I think that's radiant. Snow borrows light. If,
Yeah.
yeah, if you look at it as a thing in and of itself, there's nothing to it but edges. But when there is something to reflect, it shines in a way that blinds.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those are my questions, I believe.
Yeah. My temperament. Choose three of the following descriptors: impetuous, shrewd, curious, playful, naive, or stubborn. I think I will choose curious, naive, and shrewd. Which one have I outgrown? I think it's my naivete. I think that I'm still
Mm,
curious about the world, and that kind of canniness that I've always had is still something I rely on, frankly. But I feel that I have outgrown my naivete. Whether or not the village agrees with me is a different matter. But I've learned enough at this point in my life to know my way around my future. Um, and which one still clings to me no matter how I change. I think it's my curiosity. I think like I have been scolded many, many times about being too curious about things, about sticking my nose in places where it doesn't belong, about, you know, the need to let other people's business be their business. And yet, like, I can't help it. I just always want to know why things are happening the way they are, how they work. I can't help myself. I'm always asking those questions. And and no matter how much I try to be content with just my own sphere of things, I just can't. I always want to know more.
mm.
It is gonna be the death of me, is what people say.
Love that. Love to have that detail in a fairy tale.
um, Raiments. What are your raiments like?
Choose two raiments that throw your splendor into its highest relief and tell the village girl about them. My choices are, for the audience's benefit, crown, cloak, gown, mantle, surecoat, and tunic. I have to go with crown. Um, crown is spectacular. It, I think, it changes and shifts with my movements. The crown is a reflection of every snowflake within my realm. And
Ooh.
essentially, at every position I hold my head, it will shift to reflect the shapes of that. So it has these magnificent points, and each iteration of itself is a true and physical, oh goodness, the mathematical concept. It has a defined area, but a not defined perimeter. Y'all know geometry. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It can't exist as a physical object, but it can exist as a mathematical concept. Oh, if I knew this word, it would have been a much cooler description. Would have been a much cooler description. The closer you look at it, the more and more it is just iterations of itself.
A fractal.
Fractal. Thank you, God. Oh, thank you. Oh, fractals. Yes. Um, it's shapes and math. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah, Jess knows.
Yeah. It is. So it is infinite fractals as I move myself. And one of the things about it that is most impressive is as I am speaking, as I am moving through my court, because it changes so much with each subtle movement, it's also catching the light differently. And there's a particular kind of light snow that I feel like I have experienced maybe 3 or 4 times in my life where the flakes are so small, it is just filling the air with these ethereal sparkles.
Mm,
And that
yeah.
that floats about my head in a way that also, because it is shifting edges of, I guess what looks like ice, it also feels dangerous. And of course, the other is my mantle. And I don't know if mantle has a more defined meaning than what I am going to take from it. Like, I think this, even more than the crown displays sort of the majesty of winter itself. It says nothing about the queen. And the queen, of
Mm.
course, has things like cloaks and gowns and other decorations that speak of winter. But the thing that identifies this person as queen is the mantle. And the mantle is what looks like jagged edges of frost that play across her skin. She is required to wear it every day. And it does chill. And I think it's also what keeps her eternal. Because she used to be a mortal person. Without it, time would touch her. But her mantle is a bitter
Oh,
chill that keeps time away.
it
And
preserves her.
in her reign as queen, she has only removed her mantle so that she could better touch Kai. Yeah,
God,
dude.
that's good. Yeah, I yelled it in the chat so I didn't say it out loud and like totally disrupt you, but Kai's afraid of growing old, and this manifestation of like beating back what he says his worst fear is, what a good touch. I love it. Terrible. So good. The ominous nature of this like potential foreshadowing is just perfect in every
Yeah,
way.
there's
Or
a
maybe
lot.
it's beautiful and nothing bad will happen. Who knows? Maybe this is just a peaceful slice of life game. We'll see. Um,
Probably. It probably is. A
yeah,
Jeeyon Shim
right.
game?
That's right. I am known for making games where nothing bad happens. All right. So the village girl's clothing. Choose 2 items of clothing my family made for you and tell the Snow Queen about them. I have a thick cloak that is oh, you know what? I think the tradition in my village is that when you are a child, you are given a cloak that is like a little too big for you in the collar, because the idea is that with every year, a band that is a few inches thick is added to the end of it. So the bottom
Oh.
hem and the edges, so it grows with you.
Oh, I love that.
And yeah, and it is made of like sturdy boiled wool in beautifully dyed colors. Whatever dye plant was most available that year is often the color that it is. And so some people's cloaks are these great, like very subtle gradients of the same, like pale blue woad or kind of rusty red madder, because like for several years in a row, that plant was just more plentiful. But I think my cloak, the years have been very up and down in terms of what the weather has been like, what the environment has been like. And so my cloak is more multicolored than a lot of my elders, as are my peers, right? Anyone else who is my age is going to have a similarly almost like rainbow colored cloak, but in these like rich earth tones. I think we get woad and indigo, pale and dark blue. We get madder. We get different yellows from various roots and bark. And there's one band of bright green from a very strangely wet year that was
Jeeyon,
coaxed out using iron mordant, which, fun fact, iron mordant is known for setting the pigment in a dye by making it darker and richer. And the verb for that is to sadden it,
That's
which
great.
is, yeah, it's very good.
I
And
I I
mhm.
need to take a moment and say how much I love the way that this garment perfectly metaphorically expresses the difference in perspective between generations, because
Yeah,
people stop growing at a certain point and they stop adding to it. And if their clothing is literally made out of the physical experience the community had while they were growing up, they get locked into that perspective. Oh God, it's beautiful.
it's I said in the chat, textile arts are personal histories. Like every quilt and hand knit scarf is a personal story, and they are. Like if you make something by hand out of cloth that's intended for someone to wear on their person and to have in their home, like there's always something in it. I really love learning about textile history and textile arts is one of the most enriching like areas of study that I've done. And you know who in tabletop games is really really well learned on it is McGay Baker, one half
Mm.
of the Bakers, aka the creators of Apocalypse World.
And
One
dogs
of
in the
the most
vineyard, as
and Dogs
we
in
were
the
just talking
Vineyard.
about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Some of the most formative designers in the field, like absolutely, bar none. I think my second item of clothing is my waxed apron. And by waxed apron, what I mean is a rugged canvas apron that has been saturated with wax and that I have to re-wax several times. This is something that you are given as an adult. It is
Mm-hmm.
uh not in every vocation, but I think my apron is very special to me because Kai made it for me. Carpenters use it because the dust and the grime, it'll embed itself into your clothing if you don't have
Right.
something that is a little bit repellent. And with a waxed apron, you can wipe it down with like a damp cloth. The wax permeating the fibers means that it's just a lot easier to clean. Um, and for me, it's useful because I think one of the things that I can do, even though I lost my apprenticeship due to my health, is I can still forage as long as it's not too taxing, and the apron keeps the dirt and the mud and grime from dirtying my clothes. Washing, I think, is like a once a week or once every week affair just because it's so labor intensive. And so the longer you can keep your clothes from getting grimy, the better. And
Mm.
also because Kai likes me to look nice when we go dancing, which I think we do fairly often. um and it feels it's strange to say because it's so utilitarian. The people who wear their aprons the most are like the fishmongers, right? Like it's not a glamorous piece of clothing, but it feels like the first piece of my dowry almost, but that he gave me, or like a piece of armor, something that he gave me to protect me. And when I
Oh,
wear it, I think of him. I think of his arms circling my waist. I think of him lying in bed next to me one day. It means a lot to me. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I wear it every day, I think. Tell me about your weapon.
Okay. So the choices that I have are Morning Star, Broadsword, Boar Spear, uh, Labris. Labris?
I think it's Labrie, but I do
Labrie?
not know. Yeah.
It's like a kind of axe. I had to Google
It
that
is
one.
it is a double-headed axe. My friend calls it the dyke axe because she's like, it is a magnet for fantasy-loving lesbians. Every time I played a character who wields a Labrie, I have had a date after the campaign is over, and I'm like, noted, good to know. Good for you, man.
Interesting.
I know,
Okay.
I know. Pro tip out there. It's the quintessential Conan axe. Yes, that is exactly what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was picturing it as smaller. I guess the Google probably did not help me, but good to know. Okay.
Yes.
Um,
1000%.
Horsebow.
Whoa, I didn't know that. Sorry, really quick aside. Balloon Eyes, I don't know if that's how you say her name, but said double-headed axes are where the word labyrinth comes from, that it's the same root, the same etymological root.
That's
That
sick.
rules. That's sick as hell.
Well, I wish I had an etymologist here to explain to me how that connection works,
Oh
but
my God.
no, at the amount that we love detail, and the pace that we are going, I feel like we cannot indulge that right now. The next is horsebow, which I'm imagining is just a recurve bow, and then roundel dagger, or rondel dagger. There's no U there. I gave this a lot of thought, and I think I have to go with boar spear. And the thing that I am going to tell you about this is I despise this weapon. Being the Snow Queen is like a duty that I have grown to take very seriously. As much as I have forgotten, what I have learned is how important it is that there be a steward of winter. A lot of the duties therein, like, some are difficult, some are trivial, and certainly a person who has been doing it as long as I have, these are not complicated things for me anymore. There are difficulties. Wearing my mantle, it is always cold. But the boar spear, the weapon of winter, it's not even truly a weapon. If winter were the sort of kingdom that needed to defend itself, it would simply do so by being what it is. Violence is not an impressive thing. It's something, the horrors of violence, winter can do without a thought. And without a careful steward, there's a chance that it is destined to do those things. But the boar spear is a ceremonial object made for celebration. On the solstice, a sacrifice is offered to me.
Oh shit. Oh,
Every
good.
year, a boar approaches. It is to be the centerpiece of a feast. Every year, these creatures come of their own volition, through the mirror. Each one proud, each one handsome, each one magnificent. They are this tremendous expression of life. Thick skin, coiled muscle, still holding on to the fat that they built up to sleep through winter. This magnificent creature approaches, and it steps into the spear until it is stuck through. And I, as the Snow Queen, am expected to hold it and remain as impassive as the biting wind. I know that I hold that on my face, but I have never once felt it in my heart. It always sits there by the throne. The cruelest reminder in my kingdom.
Fuck yeah. The village girl's tools. Choose one tool now as much a part of me as my hair or hands, and tell the Snow Queen about it. The options are a hatchet, honed and clean, a flint and steel worn from frequent use, a net stained with the lifeblood of my catch, a drop spindle smoothed and polished by many hands, a set of iron shears much loved, or a basket woven from reed slats. I think, what do I do? What was I apprenticed to that I no longer am? What do I do now? I think that I was, oh, you know what? I think I was apprenticed to be one of the village hunters, and my health has made it impossible for me to hunt. The endurance that you
Oh,
need, the athleticism you need, I just don't have it. And I think I took a fever one year. There was a fever that burned through our village like a wildfire, and it took some people with it, and I survived, but not not as I was.
I'm
Um,
imagining your blossoming skill as a hunter is part of how you defined yourself too.
yeah, absolutely. I think that I prided myself on being flinty and unflinching, and there was a part of me that it's not that I liked killing, but I liked that I could.
Mm.
And I think I'm debating between the net or the hatchet.
Of the two,
I think it's the hatchet.
okay.
I think it's the hatchet because I think once it was clear that I wasn't going to be able to hunt again, my tools were given to another apprentice.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
why do I need them? I don't need my net or my bow or arrows anymore. I'm not going to use them. Give them to someone else who is learning to hunt, someone who was not as good as me, but is now maybe one of the better hunters in the village, a young woman like me
God, and she carries these things that were
that
made
I
for you.
made.
Oh
Yeah,
my
they weren't made
God.
for me.
They're
I
made by
made.
you. Oh God.
I don't know if you have ever made a hardwood bow. I have
I
in
have
real
not.
life. It is one of the most arduous crafts. It is so difficult. And when I say I've made one, I have a bow hanging on my wall that is a one that I made out of rattan, but my hardwood bow snapped because when I was close to finishing it, I miscalculated the ring that I took down on it, and it was too thin in the hinge, and it just snapped clean in half. It is so difficult to make a good bow, and that bow was my pride. I named it. And now another girl holds it and hunts with it and comes back and is celebrated for it. And I have the hatchet that every single child is given when they are 8 years old. That is the only tool
God,
that has
yeah.
any hint of what I used to be able to do. And I keep my hatchet mirror clean. And that hatchet carves down wood into spoons that I use to cook. I learn recipes that I will use to feed and nourish my future family in my one role that is left to me that I can do for the village. But that hatchet also drinks a lot of blood because I use it to slaughter livestock,
Yeah.
small
You
things,
got to keep it sharp
chickens,
enough that you'd be able to use it
ducks.
as a planer. It's
Blood,
just.
blood is slightly acidic. You have to clean it off quickly, otherwise it will eat through
Mhm.
steel and iron. And I think that um when you raise an animal, it's hard not to get attached. And my village has a tradition that many do where you bring your animals to others to be slaughtered, especially people who slaughter clean and quick and well, so that you don't have to be the one whose hands end the life of the animal whose hands previously gave them life. And now I think that many people bring their animals to me, and it is the last vestige of what I used to be able to do.
It's I think the worst part of hunting.
And it's the only piece of it that I have left.
Yeah. Yeah. And I truly love that your tool is describing a situation where you have to end lives in a way that is ultimately as considerate and gentle as it can be, where my weapon is just the time that I am forced every year to extremely, horribly, and excruciatingly participate in the death of another creature.
Yep. Yeah. I think people bring their animals to me because their animals don't even know that the axe is coming. They spend their last moments being pet and eating their favorite food, and they have no idea.
That's great.
Yeah. All right. Tell me about your hopes and fears. Your hopes and fears are two guiding frameworks you can use to build up your characterization as you play the chess match. So this is stuff that you answer now because it kind of creates an emotional scaffold when we start playing the chess match itself.
Mm.
Also, thank you to everyone gifting me channel points. I don't even know what they are, but I've noticed them flying in the more sad and uh heartbreaking I make my narrations. So thanks. I don't know what those do, but it's nice to see them. Nice validation.
Yeah, I think channel points are different than I have no idea what
I have
what
no
what
idea.
channel
I
points do.
only go on Twitch
Oh, you can
literally to
highlight
play games like
messages
this.
with them. There you go. That's
Oh,
fun.
that's cool. Yeah, that is fun. I like it. Very neat.
Okay. All right. Which hope is one that you lay before all to see, because to deny it would be to deny yourself? Choose one of the two following options, and they are that you find a consort worthy of sharing your bed, if not your throne, that you find an heir worthy of your succession, as you cannot beget your own. This is, I think it's to find a consort. Um, Although, like, the implication of narration that I have done thus far is that Kai and I have already slept together. Like that. So I think there is something different about being an official consort of the queen, that has not happened yet.
Mm.
And when your courtiers ask you about your hopes, why do you lie? I lie. I lie because there is very little that I truly remember about my plight. I remember that being queen is a punishment of sorts, a way to answer for misdeeds, but it has been so long that I do not remember those deeds. I remember I remember the responsibilities of being the Snow Queen, of what it means and why it's important. And I think I remember that if I have served my sentence, I will be able to take consort.
Oh.
That winter is dispassionate and as neutral as justice should be. That winter is not guilty. It is as pure and blank as fresh fallen snow. That to truly be winter is to be done with the things that you have done wrong, and that they are truly behind you. And once you have become winter, you are again free to be. And part of that is taking consort. And so, one that I lay bare for all to see. I want to find consort because what I am projecting to the court is that I am trying to be what I should be. I am trying to have learned the lesson that I am here to learn. And of course, the secret hope is that I find an heir worthy of my succession. Because I have done this so long. I've done this so long that I don't even ache to lay down the burden anymore. And I am afraid that even the memory of a desire to lay down that burden somehow marks the absolution that I have gone under in becoming the Snow Queen. So, yeah, I hope to find an heir, because an heir just means that it ends.
Holy shit, yeah. Yeah, hell yeah. Um,
Should I keep
so,
going or okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Which of your worst fears is widely known among your retinue and subjects alike? Choose one of the following two options. That the winter realm will fall. That your people will turn on you. And when your courtiers ask about your fears, why do you lie? I think it is that the winter realm will fall. Part of it is there are stories of the past of the Winter Realm that I know to be stories of my own past. When you become Snow Queen, there's no orientation, there's no instruction. You, a mortal being of flesh and blood, are handed winter and just expected to make do. And as I've described, there is so much that goes into the role, and I had to discover it all through a myriad of trial and error. Each movement, each gesture, each ceremony is something that was hard won, and the price was paid by the world. Part of the reason I think my desire for an heir worthy of my succession is a secret not just held from my court. It is almost a secret that I have held from myself, because it is overshadowed by the fear that should I be released, should I be replaced, that whoever follows me will stumble and struggle in the same ways that I did. After all, I cannot bear an heir. I cannot raise someone to replace me, teach them all that they would need to know to rule as fairly as I do. And I guess, so when you're, so this one is widely known that I fear the Winter Realm will fall. I think I am extremely upfront about the fact that winter is a terrible power, unbridled and unceasing, that without the right hand to guide it, it can and has swallowed the world. And I do not wish to see that again. But when my courtiers ask about my fears, why do I lie? I kind of want to tie in the other fear here. And I'm tying it in that winter, as it strikes on the other side of the mirror, can be cruel and can be harsh and is expected to be those things, but it is also allowed to be mild. However, the court is demanding, hungry, almost viciously frothing for the terrible violence that is inherent in the chill of winter. There are members of this court that desire that destruction in the same way they desire the perfectly charred flesh of the boar. So I say that I fear the kingdom of winter will fall, but I fear that perhaps if I am too gentle, if I am not enough like winter, that the court will depose me in favor of someone who would give to their violence. And the last thing is some questions to think about how you can use your hopes and fears during play. Some questions to think about how you can use your hopes and fears during play might be, how do your hopes and fears intertwine with your bearing? How might your hopes and fears impact how you wear your raiments or hold your ritual weapon during your many ritual duties? How might your hopes and fears influence how you interact with your subjects? With the strange girl you see every night in your dreams. With Kai. Sick. I feel it's all pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's amazing how these things evolve as you play. It's so fun. The Village Girls' Hopes and Fears. Your hopes and fears are two guiding frameworks you can use to build up your characterization as you play the chess match. Which hope is the one you keep secret because you hold it closest to your heart? Choose one of the following: to wed a devoted spouse and start a family of your own, or to travel beyond the village with a loyal companion. It is definitely the latter, to travel beyond the village with a loyal companion. My introduction was that I will live my whole life in the village like my mother and her mother before her, but I don't want that to be true anymore. I was content with it when I had a role, but now I feel like I don't. I have no role other than to be someone else's support, and that is so deeply unsatisfying. And I'm ashamed of this hope because it has nothing to do with Kai. Kai has not offered to take me from the village. Kai is very content to be the carpenter's apprentice, to
Mm.
be well loved and consulted. But a friend of mine is a scholar and has told me about the city, has told me about the capital, and how the closer and closer you get to the palace of the king, the more wonders there are to see. And that someone who is not strong in their body does not have to content themselves with a smaller life in the city. In the city, you can live according to your mind or your fancy if you have the right kind of wit and skill and good luck. And we could make that for ourselves if we wanted to. And I keep this very secret because to pursue that might mean not getting a life in the village. I don't know how long that would take. I don't know if Kai would be amenable to it. I don't know if this is the kind of thing that I have to ask permission for. No one's really done it before, but I think about it all the time. And which of my fears do I think about most often? Choose one of the following: that you will never be seen as an adult in your full power by the village that raised you, or that the responsibilities of adulthood will overwhelm you and you will fail those you love. Again, I think it's very much the latter, but I tell people that I am more afraid, not more afraid. I tell people that I'm afraid I will never be seen as a full adult, even though that is not true, because just by virtue of the passage of time, I know that I will be able to take my place as, if nothing else, an elder in the village among many.
Mm.
But I struggle with my daily responsibilities. There is a reason why I could no longer pursue my apprenticeship. It is true that I am no longer a capable hunter. And I worry that what I can do now will one day be too much for me, because what I do now feels so meager compared to what I used to be able to do. And what happens if Kai and I wed and we have children, and then as they are underfoot and high spirited and need me to be there to guide them, I can't. But that feels too frighteningly plausible
Mm.
that thinking about it almost feels like I am wishing it into being. And so I avoid it and I instead talk about how I want to be taken seriously as an adult 20 years earlier than I really need to be. Because at least you can laugh at that.
Yeah.
Some questions to think about how you can use your hopes and fears during play might be: how do your hopes and fears affect your temperament? How do your hopes and fears affect how you use your tools? How might your hopes and fears influence how you interact with your fellow villagers? With the numinous queen you see every night in your dreams, with Kai. Tell me about your strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. Like your hopes and fears, strengths and weaknesses are two guiding frameworks you can use to build your characterization. Which of your strengths lodges in the heart of your power, in spite of your desire to exercise it? Choose one. And my choices are your charisma, your brilliance, your ferocity, your mercy, your courage, your guile. It's got to be my ferocity. That is, yeah, that is the power of winter. Why does this strength empower you? It is the thing that winter is always capable of. In the heart of the blizzard, this strength is there. And that strength is carried in the threat of the first bite of frost. That strength is carried in every flake that falls upon another to build a blanket that smothers all life. There are many things about being the queen that do not appear to be too far from humanity. I wear a crown, I wear gowns, I am expected to hold court in a strange, fey mockery of life. But what makes me queen, what defines my responsibility, is that I hold this ferocity. So, how does it empower me? It is winter. I hold winter, and I am winter. Why do you wish you did not carry it? Because even if I exercise this power with judicious restraint and mercy, it is still meting out the edges of ferocity. It is impossible to be the Snow Queen without taking countless lives. Even the gentlest snow has the possibility of snuffing out bright and beautiful things. Who that could truly call themselves human would wish to carry that? And the thing that galls me and haunts me is I don't know if I learned that lesson while I was queen. Perhaps not knowing that is the reason that I am here. Why don't I wish that I carried it? That should be obvious. And which of your own weaknesses do you nurture? Like a bird feeding a cuckoo in its nest. Choose one. Oh, and my choices are my pride, my diplomacy, my cruelty, my vulnerability, and my arrogance. It has to be my vulnerability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why does this weakness of yours excite you? I have not felt it in longer than any man who draws breath has been alive. I did not feel this vulnerability until I became lost in Kai. It excites me because it has the warm and pulsing touch of life to it. It is being human. That is what it is to be vulnerable. It's to be aware of that vulnerability. I indulge in it and I gorge on it. Why do you make a show of shame for it that you do not feel? That is because every eye in the court holds the greed of hungry frost. If the queen were to be weak, then perhaps they would strike her down and replace her with someone who would indulge their revels. So I act with the disdain, the impassive disdain expected of the Snow Queen. And I have convinced myself that I am very good at it.
Excellent.
Do I do the last thing too? Oh, I do the last thing too, probably.
Sure, yeah.
Once you've chosen your strength and weakness, turn to them to determine how your queen might respond to various scenarios as they are unlocked during the match. Some questions to think about how you can use your hopes and fears might be: how does your strength fail you when one of your pieces is captured? How does your weakness come to the fore as an unexpected ally? How do you think Kai perceives your strength and weakness? Does it thrill you or vex you?
Perfect. All right. Strengths and weaknesses for the village girl. Which of your strengths most demonstrates how much you've grown and matured? Choose one. Your insight, your good humor, your curiosity, your creativity, your integrity, or your common sense. Why does your strength make you feel lonely among your peers, and why would you never relinquish it? I chose my insight. I think that my shrewdness and my curiosity have given me a lot of very fast, incisive observational power. Um, but it's a little bit ahead of my years. I think part of it is because of the way that my perspective has changed now that I can't really participate in the village the way that I used to be able to. And so I am able to see people as someone a little bit outside of where I used to be. And yet I would never relinquish it because it feels like the truth. Why would I seek solace in a softer, falser picture of the world that feels like a weakness? I wouldn't do that. But the weakness that I have not yet outgrown, which the choices are moodiness, tactlessness, dishonesty, impulsivity, self-deprecation, or impatience, is my moodiness. And my weakness gives me power because I think that I am known a little bit for my temper. I think that much like Kai, actually, no, I think Kai is a little, he is embarrassed by his temper, and so he watches himself and does not display it very much in public. That's something he saves for me. He will vent his spleen about other people in the village or peers or his apprenticeship to me in private. It's one of the things that, as his betrothed and someone as close to him as I am, I have seen in ways that no one else has, and it feels like a privilege. But my temper is renowned in the village, as is my melancholy, as is my joy. I think that I am known for having fits of feeling. And what it means is people are more careful with me than they might be otherwise. And I know that my moodiness is something that I can wield like a shield to keep people out if I want to. And that feels very powerful because most people in the village are really up in each other's business. There is not a lot of personal privacy around our inner lives, but I have that privacy. I'm afforded it because people are afraid of being confronted with something unpredictable. And it was my insight that like let me see that. I think that if I had been less mature, I wouldn't have been able to. And I think a lot of people ascribe my mercurial nature to my recovery from my illness, but that's not true. I've always been this way.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's an easy story that they tell themselves, and I let them tell it because it means that when I want them to, they'll leave me alone. Some questions to think about how you can use your hopes and fears during play may be: how does your strength display itself when you capture a piece? How does your weakness come to the fore as a familiar trap when one of your own pieces is captured? How do you think Kai perceives your strength and weakness? Does it hearten you or hurt you? So that was Act One. Supporting character creation is what I think of as Act Two. James, how would you feel about taking like a 3-minute bio break
Yeah, I
to
think
get
that would
water
be
and use the
good.
bathroom? Yeah, and then I'll see you back here at 8:30. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Um,
Hell yeah.
And as we take this break, viewers, first of all, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with us to witness this beautiful game. This is the reason that I was looking forward to playing this so very much. I mean, the way Jeeyon writes games, right? Gorgeous. It is
Oh,
gorgeous
thank you.
prose that begets gorgeous prose. Oh, I thought you had already disappeared. I thought I was going to be able to get away with giving you these
No,
compliments.
I literally was setting my laptop down, but I haven't taken my headphones off, so I got to hear that nice little, oh my God, Onion, I'm so sorry. I put my laptop down on top of him. I'm sorry. That time was my fault. I'm sorry. Okay, well, now I'm taking my headphones off, so I won't hear whatever he
Okay.
says.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Onion. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was. It's obvious to me why someone would look forward to playing one of Jeeon's games. Uh, this game is upcoming, so I'll let Jeeyon talk about where folks can look forward to getting it when it is fully available. But the reason that we are all here right now, the reason that we're doing this stream is the One Shot Network is running a Patreon drive right now. Our network is supported entirely, or almost entirely at this point, by viewer contributions. We do have a little advertising revenue, but it is not over much. We depend on viewers because we, as a network, do things like pay the performers that we work with. We pay the editors who help work on and produce our projects. We commission original music, original art, so many things to make all of the productions that we do possible, to make them things that you can listen to and watch. And we haven't run a Patreon drive since the start of the pandemic. And part of the reason is we didn't want to take up that space when it felt like other people, like people should have bigger priorities. But of course, the pandemic didn't stop, and the people who make these shows need to have fair wages to live. So we are running this drive. If you like this production, if you like any of the shows on the One Shot Network and you want to see us keep making them, I ask please head over to patreon.com/oneshotpodcast and sign up to support us. A small amount of money each month makes a world of difference, especially when you stand alongside all of the other people who have signed up. We're currently at $6,863 a month. We're closing in on $6,900, which is a funny number. And I feel that's a cause that anyone can support. So I am going to have this bio break on my own. I'll put up the holding screen, but we will be back shortly to continue the Snow Queen. Here we are. Hello! Welcome back. We are back from our break. We are continuing to play The Snow Queen, designed by Jeeyon Shim. Jeeyon, before we keep going, I know that this is an in-development game. If folks are interested in this game, I know you already did a crowdfunding project for it. If they want to pick it up when it becomes available, where should they go to, if not like see early materials for it, be notified when it's fully available?
The best way to be notified, not only in real time, but a little ahead of the curve, is actually to sign up for my newsletter. It is pretty, to reassure everyone who's like, not another email newsletter. It is project based. So like if there are projects that are like really picking up the pace and there is like relevant news to share with people, then I will email a little more frequently. But even then, like, I don't know, once a month. But otherwise, it's pretty quiet. And so it's not going to flood your inbox. I tried a weekly and then bi-weekly schedule. It was too much for me to maintain. So it is a nice leisurely infrequent newsletter. I will put the tiny URL for it in chat and I can highlight apparently. That's a cool thing I can do. I don't know how to do that.
I don't
Whatever.
know.
It's
Yeah.
fine. Here we go. And that is the best way to be notified. However, I know that sometimes email gets lost and so I also, have a Twitter. I'm still on Twitter like everyone else in the creative writing industry. Oh, thank you, Saren. And if you would like to just pre-order the book Sight Unseen or bookmark my itch.io store for the play kit PDF, which is basically like think of it as a little past a beta draft, but not the final product. Um, the itch.io is jeeonshim.itch.io. And my website is easy to remember. It's jeeonshim.games. And so those are the four places that you can hear about not just this game, but like work in general. And each of them have a different flavor, right? Like if you only want to hear project by project, the newsletter is the best way. If you want to hear about life in real time and development in real time and Onion in real time, my Twitter is a great place to go. And then those are my two storefronts. And I hope that is plenty for people. Oh, and then of course, because this is a Patreon drive too, I also have a Patreon, and in many ways, this is where you get the best of all worlds, right? Like it's not too frequent, but you get not only this game, but lots of other games that often are just Patreon exclusive. They're not offered anyone anywhere else. There's also live events in the server, like the Dirt Goblin Arts and Lecture series, where I ask writers and artists and people in the film industry to come in and chat about their work. And I also give a lot of stuff away for free, honestly. The Patreon, my friends keep telling me to like cool it with like the free stuff, but like I can't help it. Yes, there is a game about being an evil seagull, which is redundant, really. All gulls are evil, truly. The Western gull, especially, is one of the most evil creatures in the world. That is available for free, actually. I can link to it right now. And yeah,
Yeah.
a very different tone than the Snow Queen, but I guess that gives you the range. So
Yeah, hearty recommendation for all of Jeeyon's games and projects. And I can tell you, because I am doing a Patreon drive, how much it means for an artist to have
yes,
sustained support. The things that it allows us to do are incredible. So I encourage, if you are going to spread that Patreon love around, please send it Jeeyon's way, because I certainly love seeing the art that they produce. And if you're watching this, you have a hint about how valuable it is. So great.
thank you, James.
Let's continue our journey with the Snow Queen.
Wonderful. So we are in Act 2, supporting characters. You and your co-player have read the rules, reviewed the play guidelines, and decided who will play the Snow Queen and who will play the village girl. You are now ready to create your supporting cast. Naming your subjects and villagers. For the Snow Queen supporting characters, make names with 3 to 4 letters and keep all their vowels on the inside. Follow this naming convention throughout the roster of your friends and this should be of your allies and retinue.
Mm.
Examples: Lynn, Vale, Nod. Naming your villagers. For the village girls supporting characters, make names with 3 to 4 letters and keep all their vowels on the outside. Follow this naming convention throughout the roster of your friends and kinsfolk. Examples: Ada, Ilya, or Uko. I encourage you to invent your supporting characters from the ground up based on their playbook templates. That being said, I provided 2 examples of each type of supporting character and 1-sentence sketches of the characters represented by pawns. These guidelines are for players who prefer more structured examples, and I have found them to be very robust play tools, like to the point where I might actually take this section out and just present it as is.
Hmm.
So let's again, just like the section before, it's alternating. We're gonna go like type of piece by type of piece. So you will do your bishops first, and then I'll do my bishops. They have slightly different roles to our characters, and we will alternate that way going through until we get to the very end.
Okay. Let's see here. All right. The Snow Queen's retinue is composed of her advisors, assigned to her bishops, champions, assigned to her knights, guardians, assigned to her rooks. Her pawns represent her allies and are assigned only when they either take a piece or get taken themselves. All right. We will start with the advisors. Your advisors are members of your court whose counsel you trust above all else. They have gifts of prophecy, sorcery, and other wild magic, and move diagonally on the board. Their names. Okay, well, one of them is Woad, which I think is a perfect name for a Queen's Bishop. So I'm going to take that for sure. And I'm going to assign the other one the name of Scorn.
Ooh.
All right. Bond. You share an eternal bond with your advisors. How would you describe the connection you share? Choose one. Upon your ascension, they swore a blood oath to you. Or there is a prophecy known by all denizens of winter that ties you together. It's going to be the prophecy. These men, or these creatures, I should say, are my teachers and my jailers.
Oh, wow. Holy shit.
They play the role of advisors. They lend wisdom. And while I have done this so long that all lessons are now reflexive to me, it's so long that I don't remember the words of their instructions. I do know the tone of their instruction. Back in the wild days, when I did not understand winter, could not understand winter as winter, but as a mortal who is forced to be enveloped by it, it was a thing out of control and full of terrible power. And these creatures were responsible for explaining to me how I wrought all of the terrible things that winter did. When I caused a storm that froze a village into death, they explained to me how I did that. And it was up to me to figure out how it could be controlled. And it was lesson upon lesson until I made them all a part of myself. And the cruelty of winter was whatever cruelty I could bear to allow, instead of whatever horrors I couldn't help but unleash. So, the prophecy. The prophecy is the terms of my sentence. And it is simply that they will be here as long as I am Snow Queen. Practitioner. Choose one type of magic practiced by one of your advisors and a different type of magic for the other. There is divination, druidry, necromancy, alchemy, witchcraft, and spellbinding. A scorn practices witchcraft. That's for sure. I'm writing this down. I don't know if it's going to be relevant, but I am writing it down. And Woad is so interesting. Oh. Woad. Not practices, but practiced necromancy.
Ooh.
Woad no longer practices necromancy because all of his power was spent forging my mantle. A thing that will stand against death and time and age eternal. There's simply nothing left in Woad. Nothing left apart from wisdom. All right. Memory. Your memory sometimes feels as hard to grasp as a virgin snowfall, but there is one you share with your advisors that you are sure is true as the throne that holds you. What is it? I can't really remember it. Not physically. It is a memory that exists entirely in an intellectual space. I know that I have wept before these two countless times. I know this. Those tears are nearly as repeated as my lessons. But it has been so long since I have had cause to weep. I know that it happened. I know that I used to be the type of thing that would weep before these two. For all that I have done, for all that I regret having to do. But I cannot feel those tears in my memory. I am just sure that they were there. Okay.
Damn.
Let's bounce over to yours.
Yeah, the village girl's supporting characters, friends, and kinfolk. The village girl's friends are her confidants, assigned to her bishops, comrades, assigned to her knights, and guardians, assigned to her rooks. Her pawns represent her kinsfolk. fellow community members in her village and are assigned only when they either take a piece or get taken themselves. The village girls' confidants, bishops. Your confidants are the people in your village who you entrust with your deepest secrets and most fragile hopes. They have gifts of intuition and insight and move diagonally on the board. Their names are Ino and Inlay, and their look and bearing. Choose one of the paired descriptors for one confidant and a different pair for the other. I think that Eno is resourceful, and I actually changed dainty to gallant,
Mm.
he, him pronouns, and I think Inlay is unwavering and warm. I think that Eno is, uh, in many ways, we went through a similar tribulation when he was younger, before the fever that ravaged the village my year. When he was much younger, he almost died of a fever, but he recovered, and everyone thought that he would be sickly and ailing as he got older, but instead he grew tall and strong and is one of the most eligible and desirable young men in the village. We were actually briefly betrothed before I called it off to marry Kai. And in spite of that, we are still very close. I think that he still holds a bit of a spark for me, but he insists that that is not true. And I do still trust him with my secrets. I once, to Kai, not knowing that Eno was in earshot, described him as like a brother to me, and I could see the way that his shoulders tensed. It wasn't what he wanted to hear, which is why I
Mm.
don't believe him when he says it is no longer a feeling that he holds for me. But he is resourceful in a way that no one else in the village is. He is able to, there is a certain cunning to him, um, that belies his kind of affable personality, but his gallantry and resourcefulness come together in the frankly idiotically ill-advised things that he will do in the name of his vocation, which I think that he is a fisherman. He has apprenticed himself to the men who work the docks and who go out on the boats. And they always come back with the story of something absolutely stupid that he did that was extremely brave and probably in anyone with worse luck would have resulted in their death.
Mm.
Um, and when it was clear that I was not going to recover to my full health, he started doing favors for me. Since I can't hunt for my meat anymore, he started bringing me the best catch, making sure that I was not going to be deprived just because I couldn't provide for myself or the village anymore. That was never a real danger, but that's how he talks about it. Inlay, who uses they, them pronouns, is in many ways like the opposite. I think that they are small and plump and very quiet. They're unwavering and warm, but they also draw people in the village to them in a very different way. I think that small children and skittish animals are very comfortable around Inlay. They have a really comforting, peaceful demeanor. Um, and they are forgiving to a fault. Uh, the bond that I share with them after many years of trading and keeping each other's secrets is that they have never broken my confidence. My rapport with them is that they are my oldest childhood friends. I knew them even before I really knew Kai. And my memory sometimes feels as capricious as an old rumor, but there is one that I share with my confidants that I am sure is as real as the hearth that warms me. What is it? I think that when we were very small, 6 or 7 years old, no, 8 years old, it was when we first got our hatchets. Um, We went out to the woods to look for branches to carve our first traveling cups. These are cups that are carved out of very dense burled wood so that they can hold hot liquid without cracking. And you wax them and wax them and wax them until they shine like the sun. And we were looking for wood, and Inlay's hatchet fell out of their holster and uh cut my foot pretty badly because it was brand new and very heavy. Like the handles were almost too big for our hands. And when we got back to the village, my foot was a bloody mess. It had gone through my new leather boots. My parents were a little beside themselves and asked how it happened. And without thinking, I lied and said that there was something in the woods that cut me, a shard of glass or maybe even metal, someone's farming rake that they had left there in an idle moment or something. And I took the blame entirely. No one noticed the blood that was still on Inlay's hatchet in the kind of hubbub of scolding and fussing over me that happened afterwards. And we've been inseparable ever since.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So now we move on to the Snow Queen's champions. Your champions are your finest warriors, the first among their number to charge into battle, and the first to lay down their lives for your own. They have prowess in combat and move in an L shape on the board. Their names, oh man, naming one Tam is tempting. You know what? I don't even know if this reference will mean anything ultimately. But we're going to name them Tam and Lynn.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Maybe there is a tragic or potentially hopeful in the future story for them. So they're bearing, choose one of the paired descriptors for one champion and a different pair for another. So there's leonine and scarred, battle-hardened and soft-hearted, quicksilver and sentimental, stalwart and sharp, jocular and cunning, feral and devoted. Well, I gotta have feral and devoted on one of them. So I'm going to do that. And my vision for the court right now is like very hard and austere. So I'm going to go with stalwart and sharp for the other.
Hell yeah.
And I guess Tam is going to be stalwart and sharp, and Lynn is going to be feral and devoted. Okay. Let's see. Bond. You share an eternal bond with your champions. How would you describe the connection you share? Choose one of the following. Upon your ascension, they swore to protect you with their life. Or, upon your ascension, they swore to make your enemies their own. It's two. It's definitely two. They swore to make my enemies their own. Because they swore this upon my ascension. So as much like you could see this as, a normal, noble oath of fealty from a knight. But they weren't swearing that to me. They were swearing that to Winter. And so to me, it has always carried the threat that should I become an enemy of Winter, I will be an enemy of theirs. Position. Choose the position in which your champion strides step in step beside you. Personal Cavalier, Sentinel of the Night Watch, Captain of the Queen's Guard, your second in command. So I'm choosing one of them for, am I assigning one to each?
One
Or?
per, one
Okay.
to each.
Let's see here. I think Lynn is my personal cavalier, the Lynn being feral and devoted. So it is the most unhinged threat that is the closest to me. And Tam is captain of the Queen's Guard. And he is sharp and stalwart. A very dangerous thing to be when you are in command. Memory. Your memory sometimes feels as fleeting as laughter, as triumphant laughter, but there is one you share with your champions that you are sure is real as the throne that holds you. What is it? I believe that Lynn once told me the story of Tam Lin.
Oh.
It's been so long that I don't remember the telling. It has been perhaps decades, perhaps centuries since Lynn has even spoke. But I know the story. I know it like a terrible secret. And I know it in his voice. Yeah. And Jeeyon, I believe we're on to you.
Yes. So, the village girls' comrades. Your comrades are the peers in your village with whom you've gotten into the most trouble and mischief. They have gifts of cleverness and wit and move in an L shape on the board, two in one direction, then one diagonal. I think their names are Uko and Ilya. Their look and bearing. The choices are impish and confident, wily and winsome, dreamy, fleet-footed, captivating and glib, honest and keen-eyed, and endearing and rowdy. For Ilya, I think that he is captivating and glib. He is one of the best storytellers of our village in any generation, not just among mine. Um, I think that when the village thought he was a girl, he was often scolded for being talkative, but now that in his true self, he has stepped into manhood. Interestingly, he is not told he is talking too much very often. But part of that is because in his childhood, he had to learn to talk in a way where no one would scold him. And he learned that that was by telling stories and telling them well.
Mm. Oh,
Uko is endearing and rowdy. And I think that she uh, is very tall and broad for her family. She takes after an uncle, maybe. And I think that she loves playing with the younger children and specifically roughhousing a little bit. She can always be called on to play a game of hide and seek or stealth in the woods or to just chase after them like a mountain ogre while they scream and run, scattering in all directions. And uh she's always ready to help someone carry a heavy load. She's always ready to try to cheer someone up by reminding them that they are also capable of play. And uh, the two of them, aside from Kai, are the reason why I did not fall into despair when I realized that I was going to have to give up my apprenticeship to the hunters. And they were my fellow apprentices. I think that, in fact, Ilya, I know I said earlier that a girl carries my bow, but I don't think so. I think Ilya has a similar frame to me. And I think that he now has my bow and
Mm.
arrows. And so I can't resent it too much. If someone had to take my tools, I'm glad it was a friend like him. But we were friendly rivals when we were all in that same apprenticeship together. And now that I have fallen out, uh they also take care of me. We share a bond of misbehavior and rebellion. How would I describe the connection that we share? Choose one of the following. You were caught mid prank and refused to tattle on the other, or you dared each other into committing a great taboo and were never caught. I think it is the taboo. I think that shortly before the fever that left me unable to hunt, which I think was 2 or 3 years ago. So when we were 17 or 18, we had just passed into the traditional rite of passage. We were just declared adults. We were tipsy and rowdy. We had had too much wine, thing that we were now allowed as adults to drink, not small wine or small ale, but the proper stuff out of the proper kegs. And we all wandered into the woods. And Ilya dared Uko to kiss me, and she did without reservation. And then Uko dared me to kiss Ilya, and I did without reservation. And when we woke the next morning, we were tangled and happy. Our faces were still rosy from the night before, and we walked into the village separately from different directions because even though we all sort of turn a blind eye to it, technically, according to the traditions of wedlock, we are not meant to really even kiss anybody before we are betrothed to them. No one really follows this rule, and yet it is something that is great taboo. And if anyone had suspicions, no one has said a damn thing. So, as far as the three of us know, we got away with it completely clean. And my memory feels as fickle as a mischievous child, but there is one that I share with my comrades I am sure is as real as a heart that warms me. I mean, I think that that is the memory. I
Yeah.
think that the memory of that night is something that the three of us will refer to obliquely, sometimes daring each other to do it
Hmm.
in plainer view. Uh, it cheers me a lot.
Yeah, that rips.
And
That's
I
good. That's good. Love a rule that is meant to be broken, but you're also
absolutely.
not supposed to be caught doing it.
Hmm.
Um, and now we come to the Snow Queen's guardians, the Rooks. Your guardians are your oldest companions in the realm of winter, and as indelibly a part of your life as the frost that coats the land. They have gifts of stewardship and protections and move vertically or horizontally in straight lines on the board. Well, these suggestions are very good. One is Hob, which I gotta go with Hob because it sounds undignified, and I think that's great. And we're gonna go with Hob. Names are always so difficult. I am going to go with Melt.
Ooh.
Yeah, Melt's probably more feared than anyone else in my kingdom by people
Wow.
within my kingdom. Look and bearing. Choose one of the paired descriptors for each guardian. Okay. Intuitive and subtle, grounded and gracious, purposeful and intricate, precise and stately, worldly and impeccable, and debonair and arcane. Melt has got to be intuitive and subtle. And Hob. Hob, precise and stately.
Nice. Yeah. Hell yeah.
You share an eternal bond with your guardians. How would you describe the connection you share? Choose one of the following. Upon your ascension, they entwined your name with their own as a symbol of their faith in your reign. Upon your ascension, they taught you the intricacies of their station as a show of faith in your rule. Yeah, I've been thinking about the Guardians and how they are described as almost bearing part of Winter's power, and being very old and very powerful things. I think once again, I'm going with the second option. They taught you the intricacies of their station to show faith in your rule. The sticking point for me are, of course, the end of both of these, to show as a show of faith in your rule. I think. Oh, yeah, there it is. That's absolutely devastating.
Uh-oh.
Obviously, the Snow Queen is an essential position. There must be a Snow Queen. To not have one is unthinkable. It would mean winter is not held. Even in the times when most of the world was locked under sheets of ice and snow, there was a Snow Queen. When something like that happens, it is because a Snow Queen is either terrible and cruel or inexperienced and uncontrollable. However, no being alone can hold the full power of winter, act truly as winter always must act. There have to be delegations made. The queen must confer power and grant instruction. So these two taught me the intricacies of their station. In the beginning, I knew that things had to be done. The power had to be let out of me, otherwise it would come screaming and flying out. And the guardians were there to hold that power and distribute it for me, in addition to what other things I had to do on my own. And in their capable hands, I was able to see how vague and clumsy and destructive my instructions could be. And the price that I paid, or that was paid, on behalf of my inexperience, on behalf of my weakness. And they did this as a show of faith in my rule. They did this because they believed that, based on the reasons that I was brought here, that my rule would be a wicked one, a terror
Ooh.
held in the hearts of all beings with warm blood through age after age. I don't know if I answered their faith. Station. Choose which stations in your realm that your guardians stand in, have stood in, and will continue to stand in long after you are gone. Okay. Well, Melt is obviously the groundskeeper. Yeah, that is the reason that he is so feared.
Yeah.
He he cleans up he cleans up after every winter. Um, he will destroy everything and everyone that is winter at some point. The court is long-lived, but not eternal. And many of them know that their end will be at his hands. And that means Precise and Stately Hob is my archivist.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. I think the sneering threat carried in them showing faith in my rule lived most prominently in Hob. Hob thought that, and was right for a time at least, that the stories of my reign would be exciting nightmares. Memory. Your memory sometimes feels as slippery and difficult to hold as an icicle, but there is one you share with your guardians that you are sure is as real as the throne that holds you. What is it? I think it is the first time that I came to understand that the beings of the Winter Court could truly fear anything, and that thing that they feared was Melt. Again, I can't physically remember having this memory. I think it's clearer than a lot of others because thinking about it makes the ache of my mantle ever so much more prominent. And that must mean I had the ability to be in my body when this memory was formed. And it's so subtle. It has all of Melt's subtlety. There are few occasions where my full retinue has to gather for me to hold court. Very few occasions, especially few that call for the presence of the guardians. A lot of the court is there for the show of the court. Why should Winter have guards? Why does Winter need champions? What does Winter fight? It's meaningless in a way. But the Guardians perform some of Winter's function. So when they are called forward, it's significant. I am expected to do monumental things. And I suppose that is the reason that I didn't notice this before. But when Melt entered the Great Hall, every being in attendance of court shifted uncomfortably. It was long enough into my reign that I understood that I could not allow anyone to understand that I had observed this. But I held this lesson close and dear, that even the strange fey creatures of the winter realm felt fear, even if it was only for something so unimaginably terrible. Yeah, that's my memory. Just that moment.
Yeah. Well, shall we move on to the Village Girls Guardians?
Let's do it.
All right. Your guardians are your closest village elders. They have gifts of stewardship and protection and move vertically or horizontally in straight lines on the board. Look and bearing. Choose one of the paired descriptors for one guardian and a different pair for the other. There is robust and garrulous, grizzled and gentle, strong and tranquil, fragile and fiery, willowy and outspoken, clumsy and magnetic. Ache is grizzled and gentle. She was the apothecary who treated me. I think that she is an aunt by marriage, but not blood. That being said, in my village, we are not raised strictly just by our parents or even parents and grandparents. We are sort of collectively raised by all the adults. And so it is entirely possible to be very, very close to people who are not your blood relations. And Ache is one of them. A sort of tongue-in-cheek nickname that she was given, I think, when she took her vocation that has never left. And then there is also Epi, who is fragile and fiery. I think that she is I think like me, she was apprenticed to a craft and lost it because she injured herself. I think that her hand was crushed in an accident, and so she could no longer work. And she is a wonderful mother and well known for being a valuable member of the village like anybody else. However, she was the one who I went to for counsel when it was clear that I was not going to be able to return to hunting. And I think that she was the one who told me very frankly that people who I had thought of as inseparable, people who I had thought of as stalwart and true to me, would leave me behind. not on purpose, not because they didn't love me, but just because, sorry, I don't know if you're catching the sound of Onion's auto feeder, but I'm gonna wait because he always trundles really loudly to it, and I'm just gonna be a few seconds. All right. Because I think because in her estimation, people lose sight, most people lose sight of anything outside their own sense of comfort and anything that makes their life, anything that puts a little more grit in the gears of their life is something that they choose to ignore if possible. And so I shouldn't take it personally, but I shouldn't forget it. And I think that I needed that advice at that time. And I think the reason why Epi was that honest with me is because both she and Ake are married. I think that they are long married, and they swore to never lie to me when I was born.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think that marriage is strictly between two people in my village. And so Epi and Ake are married, but also my uncle by blood is married to Ake as well. But they
Mhm.
have two different houses. And Ake and Epi live together mostly in each other's house. Um,
Um,
and mm,
Jeeyon, I have a question.
yeah,
Is it a cultural practice that two adults within the lives of a child would swear not to lie to them?
no,
Okay.
no, I think that this was a personal oath that they took. My memory sometimes feels as disruptive as a death in the family, but there is one I share with my guardians that I am as sure is as real as the hearth that warms me. What is it? I think it is a memory after my recovery, but before I realized that I was not going to be able to be a village hunter anymore. When I was in Ake and Epi's house, I was helping them cook, and they were asking me in an appraising way to split logs for the fire, and I was having trouble doing it because typically what I would do is I would put the log on the stump, heft my axe up, maybe my hatchet. I think our hatchets are called hatchets, but they're really forest axes, which are like slightly shorter but still quite heavy, like full axes. And I was having trouble bringing it down all the way through, and Epi was the one who showed me that I could do it the other way around. You don't have to bring the axe up and down. You can lay the axe with its edge facing up
Mm.
and anchor the log into it and then actually hit the log and the axe already held together against the stump and just let the wedge of the axe head work its way through. It's slower, but it's a way that I can still do this for myself without using too much of my strength. And it was the first, looking back, I realized it was the first day that someone was teaching me how to adapt to my new body. And they did it without shame and they did it without stigma or pity, something that even Kai does not always manage all the time. And it was a warm evening on a cold night. And the stew that we made together and the conversation that we had both nourished me in a time when I desperately needed nourishing. And I will never forget that night. I owe them everything for that night. Shall we move into allies and kinsfolk?
Sure, sure. Your allies are fellow members of the Winter Realm. Some are your subjects. Some are also royalty, anointed by the same ageless hands that set your own crown upon your brow. A secretive few keep their own counsel, but all act in accordance with your will, understanding it to be the will of winter itself. Allies can only move forward straight or diagonally. On their first move on the board, they can move up to 2 spaces directly ahead of them. After that, they can only move 1 space directly ahead when they are merely traveling, or diagonally when capturing another piece. Okay, and so these I only have to assign when they've taken a piece or get captured?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can, if you want, you can go through and assign them now, but we can also play through and just assign them as it becomes relevant because they've either captured or been captured.
I mean, I guess I'll move more quickly on these. So the first we have the Bear King. I can choose
Mhm.
Colossal, Golden, or Lordly. And I'm going to go with Colossal. It's the Bear King. Come on. And their place is either glacial caverns or mountains. And got to go with mountains. All right. Then we have the Elders of the Eagle Clan. Let's see. They can be Grand, Elysian, or Titanic. Gonna go with Elysian on that. And their place is either Silver Cliffs, a Rookery, or the Sea. We're gonna go with a Rookery. Then we have the Foxwives. Choose one. Let's see. Their look can be sinewy. Lissom?
Mhm.
Okay,
It
Lissom.
means graceful in a very specifically alluring way.
Sinewy, Lissom, or Wild? I mean, gotta go with Lissom. For sure. And their place is either a pine grove or coastal cliffs. We're going to go with a pine grove for that. That is immediately what it was in my head before I even knew the option was there. The Dryads of the White Woods. Their look is serene, nimble, or aloof. I'm going to go with serene. We had serenity echoed in the Queen already, so. And their place can either be a birch grove or a pine forest. Hey, we already have a pine forest, so let's give them a birch grove. And as dryads, I like what that might imply about their skin. I think it's a little creepy that it might peel away in patches.
Yeah.
Then we've got the ice giants, crystalline, diaform, or eerie. We're going to go with crystalline for sure.
Hell yeah.
And frozen waterfalls or caverns? Caverns, their crystal bodies are so clear that they are invisible in the dark. Then we've got the Frost Prince. There's a surprise. Sprightly, light-footed, or sharp. I'm going to go with sprightly. And either Salt Flats or the Frozen Sea. We're going to go with Frozen Sea.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
The Solstice Merchants. Love these names. They can be cunning, generous, or keen. Cunning, obviously. You got a merchant, they got to be cunning. Solstice Market or Merchant Caravan. Well, as we have Chris Kindlemart here in Chicago, we must give them the Solstice Market. Then the Blessed Elk. Or Blessed Elk, probably. Look, glorious, silver antlered or elemental. Gotta go with silver antlered.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I love when people choose that one. It's an image I really like.
It's great. I mean, I'm also like, as antlers, you gotta think of them molting and whatever, like the yearling flesh coming off of it.
Yes,
So if
absolutely.
Yeah, if silver's in there, it's sick. That is actually, ooh, man, they get called through the mirror. Like they're just real world elk, but if they molt silver, they have to go through the mirror and serve the queen. That is her summons.
Oh, yes.
And I think
Yes.
their
Oh,
place,
that rules.
it's got to be the Queen's Road. I like that. Okay. Jeeyon, we are on to yours.
Yes, yes, yes. My kinsfolk. Your kinsfolk are fellow members of the village. Some are family, but they are also neighbors, friends, tradesfolk, and artisans and travelers who pass through your village with the same seasonal quality as migratory birds. Kinsfolk can only move forward, straight, or diagonally. On their first move on the board, they can move up to 2 spaces directly ahead of them. After that, they can only move 1 space directly ahead when they are merely traveling or diagonally to capture a piece. The weaver is, I think, deft, and their cottage is on the lake shore. No, in the wildflower field so that they can gather dye plants. The midwife is flinty and gathers her herbs on in the marshes of the Delta. The hunter, who I apprenticed with, is hawk-eyed and catches most of their quarry in the foothills with the tall grass. The merchant is merry, and we run into him most often on the road leading in and out of the village because he is one of the seasonal members of my kinsfolk. The blacksmith is thick set and works in the tavern stables, and the tavern keeper is rosy and likes to take their leisure on the green. I think she likes to watch the burly men at sport, and they like when she watches. Um, the carpenter, who I'm going to deviate from standard and say is my father. Typically that would be my rooks, but in this case, because I chose non-parents for my rooks, I'm going to say that one of the pawns is my father. Is
Oof.
noble and gathers their wood from the forest of oak and pine. No, from the birch grove, the mirror image of the Snow Queen's birch grove with the dryads. And the baker is surprisingly stylish, somehow able to keep up with more or less modern styles, and plies their trade in an open air stall by the meadow.
Hmm.
Shall we move into the Snow Queen's Kai?
Yeah. The Snow Queen's Kai, the king. In spite of yourself, Kai means as much to you as your throne. Ooh. For my queen, that is a fascinating statement.
Mm-hmm.
Consort or heir? When Kai first stumbled through the mirror into your realm, his cheeks were as rosy as a child's, but his stature and bearing were that of a young man's. You knew instantly that the two of you were destined for each other. Is Kai standing by your side as your consort or the heir to your throne? It's consort. And why do your courtiers and subjects fear will become one of you? I'm reading this wrong. Why do your courtiers and subjects fear will become of you due to your choice? Okay. Is that meant to be what?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
little clumsily written. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Um, I am. I think around Kai, there is just a palpable tension within the court. I think, I can definitely sense it. I think Kai can also sense it, which is why he does not like being in the court. I don't think I know the exact nature of that tension, though I have my suspicions. Um, Again, Kai is not formally named consort. There's something more that has to happen. I'm not sure that even I know what it is. But when I take consort, that is supposed to say something about my sentence. And I think the court does not want that to come to pass.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's hard to say what the nature of that is, though. I don't know that fear is the right word for it. But right now there is this heavy tension around Kai and the potential he represents. But I also think that something dictates that they cannot touch him.
Yeah.
Okay. Advisor. Kai gives you counsel that you take above that of your closest advisors. What does he urge you to do that your advisors beg you to reconsider? I mean, it's so simple. It is what I would hope is the first thing that anyone would urge the Snow Queen to do if they caught her ear. He asks for mercy.
Oh.
And it's not a begging or a pleading. Um, I am not displaying the power of winter outside the course of regular duty. But when Kai is there to witness it, he knows what winter means as much as anyone who has had to live a life like Kai, who has worked outside, who has to collaborate with a village to make what is sometimes a very difficult life. He knows what winter means. And he requests gentleness. And of course, my advisors beg to reconsider because they do not desire that. The court does not desire that. They revel in the cruelty. And I know that I strike a delicate balance, that I shield my own desires for mercy with the responsibility of the throne and with the mastery that I have painstakingly won through grief. But when Kai is so impertinent as to ask for it, that is an opportunity to indulge it. And one that I work very hard to secretly revel in. For the champion, Kai vigorously fights for you in a way that even your closest champions cannot. In what way does he defend you that they do not or cannot? I think Kai effortlessly insists on my humanity. It was described when we laid eyes on each other that I felt that there was destiny in that was immediately part of my bond to him. It is because He assumed that I was human. I didn't need to convince him. Everyone around me, I don't know if the rest of the court was human at one point. I think there are many subjects in the realm of winter, but to be in my orbit, you have to be of a certain station, and those that are there are reveling in whatever it is to be a figure within the winter court. So it is hard to call them human. But Kai does not see me that way. And it is in gentle requests. It is in small looks. It is in touches. It is in kisses. It is in sweet things that he says to me, that he fights. He fights with boundless strength and ferocity that winter fears like melt. Guardian, Kai once led you to question the station of your guardians, the guardians of the winter realm itself. What unseen flaw of theirs did he reveal to you? The guardians have, to me, felt like the beings that, if my court were to turn, if it were possible for the court to decide to depose the queen and replace her, that the only thing that I would really have to fear would be the guardians, that everything else is for a show. Again, I have this army, I have these knights, these champions, but we don't fight anything. I've got these merchants, but they only sell things to each other and the court. I don't even know what they're doing when it's not the solstice. A lot of it feels like it's for show, but the guardians move the power of winter in a way that affects the world beyond the mirror. Their interaction with that power is real, and so I fear them in a way that I don't fear the others, because I have suffered boundless cruelty here. And it feels like, even with violence to back it, that's really the only power everything else has to bear. But the guardians can actually touch and move the power of winter. And they are bound to my instructions, and I have learned how to instruct them in a way that satisfies my own desires for mercy. I have come into the station and come into the power in that way. And Kai, but when they move my power, they look for any liberty they can find. And they always do things in a way that is harsher than I would do them if I saw to it personally, which is why I really take pains to take as much of the responsibility onto myself personally. And Kai points out to me that I do have to delegate that power to them. They don't take it from me. It is always given. So maybe if the court did decide to depose me, maybe they wouldn't be able to.
Oh.
Betrayal. In your dreams, Kai betrays you. When your own cries wake you in the night, he draws you close. What reassurance does he offer you? It was a dream. Harm cannot come to you in dreams. Why do you want to believe him? I want to believe him because I want him to be safe. I want his touch. I want him at my side. I cannot hold on to the dreams. There is a part of me that viscerally rejects them. There's also a part of me that might simply be so damaged that hanging on to a memory like that is simply beyond my ability. I do know, in the same way that I know all of my other memories, that the thing that horrified me in the dream was a betrayal. And that it was Kai's betrayal. But I don't know the true nature of it. The lingering impression I have of it is that if he were to betray me in this way, that I would lose him and that he would be in danger. The last question is, why don't you believe him? I believe Kai says this thing to me, that harm cannot come to you in dreams, because he has often described this realm as a dream. And as he knows it, no harm could come to him here. But I know, based on my experience, that is not true. Harm does find you in winter. Winter is a harm that finds you and covers the world around you. He has not seen that in this dream because I have given everything to shelter him. And perhaps that's why I have these dreams. Perhaps that's why it is possible that he might betray me. But every time I feel his arms, and every time I hear the soothing hiss of his gentle words, I give everything in myself to trying to believe them.
Well, the village girl's Kai, the king. In spite of yourself, Kai means as much to you as your own blood. When Kai lost his parents, he became the child of every family in the village. The two of you grew up side by side. You were inseparable and are inseparable still. but something shifted between you after you both crossed the threshold into adulthood hand in hand. Confidant. Kai holds my trust more deeply than even my closest confidants, though they've expressed their doubts about his discretion. What secret of yours does he keep that he insists cannot be trusted with anyone else? It's the comb,
Mm.
the comb that he gave me. I haven't told either Eno or Inlay about it. It's not that I don't think they could comprehend it. It's that I was worried that them knowing about it would endanger them as well. Kai is the one who put the doubt in my mind that that is the secret that they could keep, that maybe this is the first time they would break my confidence because it's real magic, because it could bring wealth or good fortune to us in the right hands, because it's power that I hold. I think that Eno in particular has a habit of getting a little too drunk. Not enough to make a fool of himself, but enough to loosen his tongue a little bit. And Kai has told me that he's said things that, while not betraying a confidence, I would not want shared about me. They're his right to say, because they're about his heart and his memory and history with me, but still. And Inlay, it would just take one child that Inlay takes care of to repeat the wrong thing to the wrong person. It's enough to give me pause. And so I rely on Kai. Comrade. Kai fervently sticks up for me in situations that even my thickest thieves comrades shy away from. How and why does Kai defend me? I think it's to do with my moodiness. I think that sometimes I say things or do things that run up against taboos, or that fly in the face of authority, or just that simply hurt feelings. And I think that when I enter my moods, particularly the gray ones or the black ones, even even my comrades avoid me or have a hard time speaking up for me, but Kai never hesitates to, and in fact perhaps goes a little too far defending my right to be mercurial.
Mm.
But it still feels so protective. It's like he's one of the few people who accepts me as I am now, who doesn't wish I was the way I was before, or who doesn't wish I would just be a little bit quieter, a little more convenient. And so it means a lot to me that he does that, even though my insight tells me that he's wrong to
Mm.
do it. Guardian. Kai once goaded me into questioning the authority and counsel of my guardians, my own flesh and blood. What unseen flaws of theirs did he reveal to you? I think that, I'm going to mix this a little bit and include my father, even though he was assigned to a different piece. Um, I think that Kai has told me that my father is foolish to my face, that the way that he runs his apprenticeship is misguided and too orthodox, and that he should open it up to more people.
Mm.
I think that Kai is only one of a small handful of people who is apprenticed to my father, because my father is very selective about the skill. And what Kai has said is, what happens if there's another fever? What happens if there's a plague? What happens if there's another hard winter? The fever that took my health with it was one that was caused by a very hard winter.
Of course.
And I think that ever since then, Kai has been very sensitive to the idea of misfortune due to scarcity. Betrayal. In my dreams, Kai betrays me. When my own cries wake me in the night and he draws me close, what reassurance does he offer me? Why do I want to believe him? Why don't I? I it's so prosaic in its way. Kai convinced me to leave Eno for him by leading me very quietly one night to the old road behind the oldest houses in the village where Eno kissed another young man. They were both in their cups. I could see the flush on their cheeks from the bushes that we hid in. And still it was enough to hurt me. And I never told Eno that was why. And now I dream about Kai kissing the Snow Queen the same way.
Oh,
Kai and I have never, we have tussled and rolled around, but we've never, we will share a bed on our wedding night. And in my dreams, he has already crossed that threshold with her, with you. Ancient and beautiful and eternal, possessed of power and grace that no mortal woman could ever know, let alone a mortal woman who was so recently a girl. And I wake up from those dreams already weeping, thinking about how could anyone not be won over? I would not. If I were in Kai's place, embracing you and being embraced by you, there's no way that I would be able to look back on my life and think of it as anything but dull and bland. And he reassures me that that's not so, that I am like the blood in his veins, that just because I am familiar and known to him doesn't mean he doesn't need me. Doesn't mean that I don't warm him or that I don't, or that there are no mysteries to me still. And I want to believe him, but I know he has a silver tongue and I know how easily he can talk his way out of any situation. And I can't help but wonder if I am now one of those situations and that he is just buying himself space and time.
hmm.
And we have now concluded Act Two, which is making our supporting characters. Would you like to take another like short break, maybe come back at 10 after the hour and then go into the chess match itself and how to play?
Um, I might need for us to pause this game this
Yeah,
evening.
I was gonna say it's like midnight where you are, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I
And
feel like if we're gonna pause, this is the place to do it because we created so much drama and these people who we care about a lot.
yeah,
Uh,
and once we start moving pieces on the board,
yeah,
we're gonna want to keep that board. So
exactly, exactly. Do you want to find a time to play just the chess match itself?
yes, definitely. My question to you, Jeeyon, I have a doodle out to you, but one of the dates on that doodle is, or I guess two of them, uh, we have either uh, Monday the 29th or Wednesday the 31st, which would both be during the drive, and we could just simply pick this up
Oh, yeah,
still during the drive.
that sounds perfect. Let's do it during the drive.
All right then, folks. Obviously, we set up some cool stuff here. I am so excited to dig into this. This game, Jeeyon, I've said it before, but I need to say it again now. This game is beautiful, like truly
I'm so
beautiful
glad.
in
Oh,
in a
I'm
way that
so glad you like
inspires
it.
beauty in playing it. I can't recommend this enough to the chat, but I know the people in the chat right now are keenly aware of it because they just saw that all set up. Yeah, we will come back to this on the 29th, and I will have that
Or you
added,
mean the
or
31st,
the
right?
31st, the 31st, the
Yeah,
final
during the
day of the game.
drive.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I'm going to not assign a time to it yet, but I'm just going to set the day aside so that I know to calendar with you. And I hope to see everyone in chat and then some on that day, because the chess match is when everything goes down, kind of literally. So
I'm so
yeah.
terrified. I'm so
Yeah,
terrified.
that's about right. Yeah. Um, I can't wait. I think it's going to be wonderful.
Okay. In the meantime, I want to once again thank Jeeyon for sharing this game with us and coming on to play with me. Again, I had a lovely time. I know that everyone had a lovely time watching. If you are here, the reason that we are all here is One Shot is currently hosting a Patreon drive. The One Shot Network produces all kinds of gaming related shows, including many wonderful actual plays just like this. If you want to hear more from Jeeyon, right now, available on Patreon publicly is the first episode of a session of Chubo's marvelous wish granting engine that I recorded with Jeeyon and a mutual friend Victor. It's my first experience playing Chubos. Jeeyon and Victor have played together many times. That is also a wonderful game, and it was a wonderful experience playing it because I got to play it with Jeeyon. I am so proud of that series. The first episode is available on Patreon now. Um, the next episodes are going to be available to $5 and up backers. However, after we are done with the current series running on One Shot, which is Firebrands, the first part of Chubos will run publicly for free. And to those of us who are backing on Patreon going, well, if you're just going to give it away for free, why would I back? Well, we didn't just do one session of Chubos Marvelous Wish Granting Engine. That is a 4-shot. So
Yeah, it
it's
is.
a series where we really get to indulge and sink into those characters and make some beautiful progress in the story. And the next parts of that series feature, in addition to Jeeyon, myself, and Victor, Darcy Ross, which it was so much fun to play with Darcy, as it always
Yeah.
is. I love that series. That series will be available in full to our $5 Patreon backers. But the first episode is up for sample now, and it is going to be released alongside episodes of One Shot throughout the drive. So with that said, it would be great to head over to patreon.com/one shot podcast and sign up to support us. It helps make all sorts of incredible shows. One Shot, of course, and Campaign Skyjacks, a show that is near and dear to my heart, that Jeeyon has contributed some world building to, that I am also very grateful for.
Yes. So fun.
So please help us continue to make shows like this, because I think they are very good. I think their value is self-evident. And I just truly love making them. And the more financially stable the network is, the easier it is to feel good about investing the time and effort in it, because then I know I am not letting down my family by making that choice. Yeah. But head over. One quick check-in before we all go to bed. We are currently up to 6872. I believe that is higher than when I last reported. So thank
Woo!
you so much for those who either joined for the first time or increased their pledge. I am sincerely grateful for it. Jeeyon, before we go, once more, could you remind everybody in chat where they can find your stuff and how they can support you?
Honestly, given that this is a Patreon drive, I'm going to lead with my own Patreon, which is patreon.com slash Jeeyon Shim, also fondly known as the Dirt Goblin Community Center. You get access to all digital versions of my games, as well as Patreon exclusive games that are not sold anywhere else, and also Patreon exclusive live events. I had my very good friends Erica Ishii and Karen Hahn on as lecture guests. Pretty soon, my friend Gretchen Felker Martin will be joining us, and lots of writers and artists and people involved in all kinds of creative fields uh, are part of the community, and I would love to see you there if this kind of thing interests you. It's a wonderful, wonderful space full of people from truly all kinds of backgrounds who are a million times cooler than I am, and it's just it's a wonderful place. But saliently to this, literally all my work goes through my Patreon at some point. So if you want like a one-stop shop, that is maybe the best place to go. If you want full physical versions of things, then check out my website at jeeonshim.games.
Alrighty. Well, everyone, again, thank you so much for joining us. This VOD will be up, so The Hungriest Clone, even though you caught it late, you will be able to watch this stream at your leisure. And I encourage people to watch it and share it around so that when we come back for part 2, everybody is hungry for the drama to unfold.
Yes, absolutely.
All of these beautiful chess pieces that we have set up are going to come tumbling down. And just knowing that is heartbreaking.
Truly. All right. Thank you so much for having me, James. This is such a privilege and pleasure every single time.
Thank you, Jeeyon. I love playing with you.
I love playing with you.
This is great. This is great. Everyone out there, have a great night. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.